10th, 2025 Board of Commissioners meeting. In accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act and my glasses. Notice of this meeting has been sent to the retrospect and posted on the Borough website, Borough social media, and posted on the bulletin board of Borough Hall. And it is being held in person as well as via Zoom. Will everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence.
Clerk.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you.
Roll call. Commissioner Troy,
Present.
Commissioner Seidel,
Present.
and Commissioner Bianco Bezic is absent tonight, traveling back from out of state.
So right now, in the spirit of negotiating to the very last second, we are going to take we're going into private session, into closed session to discuss the final Woodmont proposal. And we'll be back in probably 15 minutes, so just hang tight. Instead of making you move, we're gonna move. So we're gonna go downstairs and we'll be right back. Closed session? Motion to go into closed session, and I'll second that.
Voting on that motion, Commissioner Troy,
In favor.
Commissioner Seidel.
In favor. Because I can't vote on him. Oh, yeah, right, exactly. All right, you gotta make a motion.
Yes,
Yeah, okay.
you gotta make, she's gotta call for a motion to come out closed.
Yeah, we can do it in public. I'd like to make a motion, oops.
Closed.
I'd like to make the motion to come out of closed session and return to public comment or to public meeting. Second.
Voting on that motion, Commissioner Troy,
In favor.
Commissioner Bianco Bezic. Sorry, my bad. Commissioner Seidel.
In favor.
Thank you.
Welcome back. I'd also like to make a motion to table item C, waiving of the minutes of things. Now, we are still committed to posting the minutes. Most of them I can't vote on. So we don't have a quorum on most of these items. So I'm calling for a tabling until the March work session. It doesn't mean that we're not going to continue to do work on the minutes. It's just, there's no sense voting on something that most won't pass. So I'll make a motion. Second.
Voting on that motion, Commissioner Troy,
In favor.
Commissioner Seidel.
In favor. Next, proclamations. On tonight's agenda, we have National Poison Prevention Week, March 16th to 22nd, 2025, and Commissioner Troy has offered to summarize the proclamation for the public.
Whereas Congress designated the third full week of March to be National Poison Prevention Week in 1961, and since this week has helped to raise national awareness of the potentially dangerous medicines, household chemicals, environmental contaminants, and other substances. Whereas poison control centers across the country will focus the public's attention on the free life-saving services provided by poison centers, as well as educating the public on ways to prevent poisoning exposures. And whereas New Jersey Poison Control Center, a division of the Department of Emergency Medicine at Rutgers, New Jersey Medical School, provides 24/7 expert medical treatment, advice, drug information, and prevention education at no cost to the public through the Poison Help Hotline, where specialized medical professionals provide accessible, free, and confidential poisoning medical treatment advice and information to all. I will skip several of the lines here. Whereas poison center experts encourage the public not to guess, wait for symptoms, or waste time looking up medical information online when potential poisoning exposures occur, call 1-800-222-1222, text 973-339-0702, or chat at www.njpies.org. Now, therefore, we, the Board of Commissioners, the Borough of Haddonfield, County of Camden, State of New Jersey, do hereby proclaim the week of March 16th to the 22nd, 2025 as National Poison Prevention Week in New Jersey. Encourage all citizens to pledge their commitment to ensuring the safety of themselves, their families, and their community. Thank you.
Thanks, Frank. Next, we're going to hear monthly departmental reports. First up, Public Affairs and Public Safety. Chief, do you have an update?
Thank you, Commissioner. So for the month of January, the police department answered or responded or initiated 1,780 calls for the month of January. It's a little on the higher end. We stopped 214 car stops. Out of that, we wrote 402 summonses, 15% of them moving, and the rest 85% parking summonses. We only had one burglary in January. It was a commercial burglary, and I'm happy to report that the suspect was apprehended and currently waiting for hearing in the county.
And there was a missing child today?
There
Or,
was
I'm sorry, a missing young adult?
missing young adult. He didn't get into it too much, but I think he partied a little bit too much last night after the win and didn't come home.
Probably not the only one.
Yes.
Thank you.
But
It wasn't the mayor, was it?
he was home safe and sound.
Good. Thank you. And like you would say, John, and a lot of people in my family would look up, Chief, you got an update?
For EMS, for the month of January, we had 81 in-town calls, 14 mutual aid calls, a significant uptick in H1N1, COVID, and that dreaded flu too, if anybody's had that. Not a good thing to have. 31 fire calls in town, 5 mutual aid calls. Just a reminder, with heavy snow, please do us a favor and shovel out the hydrants, and also watch the exhaust on your houses to make sure they're not below the snow line. All right, with CO problems that could exist. So that's pretty much it for me. Next month we'll have that full year-end report.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Joanna, communication?
In January, the Super Bowl, we had CBS do a live preview with the mayor the Wednesday before, and then on the day of, we had coverage from CBS and NBC 10. And then I wanted to talk a little bit about some events that are happening the rest of February. This weekend on Saturday, Preserving Black Haddonfield is hosting their conversation series at the library. It's at noon. You could go to the library and hit on the event page and register. We're also hosting a domestic violence panel here, February 19th at 7 p.m. The mayor, police chief, and we have 3 experts coming in. Somebody from the Camden County Prosecutor's Office and Camden County Domestic Violence Program. And then our MLK event has been rescheduled, and we were the March for Peace, and the ceremony here, it's been rescheduled for February 25th at 6 p.m. here at Borough Hall.
Great, thank you. Michael, Partnership for Haddonfield?
Partnership for Haddonfield starts the new year with the setup, promotion, and execution of Winterfest and Super Bowl Saturday. Thanks to the help to Department of Public Works. We had 8 ice sculptures placed throughout the town. We had 262 tickets sold for the Super Bowl event. 14 restaurants donated 7 gallons of their best soup. Many of those owners stayed and helped serve. Proceeds went to Cathedral Kitchen and Camden County, which served 2,000 hot meals a day. Over $3,500 were donated to Cathedral Kitchen, and they were able to raise $5,900 on their own. Thank you to Department of Public Works for trash and event uplift, public safety, or the police for public safety, and Camden County for sponsoring such a hospitable accommodation with the Mechanic Street tent. Preparations have begun for a series of Galentine's events happening in town, menus and specials throughout the downtown as part of our Where the Heart Is campaign. And restaurants are gearing up for the 6th annual restaurant week, which is March 4th through the 10th.
And congratulations to the Bistro for their chicken dumpling soup, which was fantastic. Next, we'll move to Public Works and Public Property, and Mr. Ober is here. So, but Frank, take it away.
Turn over to Bill to give us an update on Public Works.
Month of January, Public Works had all our normal routine tasks, vegetative waste pickup, recycling pickup. We had several snow events where I believe we brined at least 2 times, plowed and shoveled all our own properties. We did have our pothole machine out. We actually brined today for an upcoming storm tomorrow. We are working on getting our street sweeper out. If we can get the streets clear, no.
And what's the best way to report potholes?
I believe we have the online portal.
So if you go to the borough website, and you go to Department of Public Works, there's report, I believe it's called like report a concern, and then it takes you to GovPilot, which is like a third-party site, and you just complete address, information, short description. I think you need actually even include a picture and submit that. Or you can also call the Public Works office, and Susan will use that to compile GovPilot. That becomes like the tracking mechanism for it.
Oh, cool. Thank you.
Just before you leave, snow, just a reminder that because we are expecting anywhere from 1 to 6 inches, if you can please remove as many cars from the roadway as possible so that the gentleman can plow as much of the road as possible. And end up, if we receive enough that they have to plow.
So now we'll go to Revenue and Finance. My one update before I go on to the department heads is thank you for paying your taxes. In 2024, we had a collection rate of 99.23%. And February is tax month. The taxes are due for the 3rd quarter, right? Is that how it is? The 3rd quarter tax payment now? Or is it first?
Is
3rd. Oh, it's first. Okay, so it's 1st quarter.
3412.
Oh, 3412. All
the
right,
tax
thank you.
bill, 3412.
Yeah.
It is.
All right. Everything has to be complicated in government. Welcome to government. And now I'm going to ask our redevelopment council to give us a briefing on where we stand with Woodland.
Here. Oh, you gonna go up there?
Oh, you can go to the lectern. Yes. Remember, you stand on a podium, you stand behind.
Is this it's good?
Is it on?
I think so.
Yep.
All right, so good evening, commissioners. Every time I come up here and give a recap, I go back about 1.5 years and recount the history. I've done it several times, and I feel when I was watching a Netflix thing over the weekend, I saw that skip recap button, and I thought, that's got to be what where Haddonfield people are thinking these days. So I am going to skip that recap. I know I've done it several times, but I will start at the late December court order, just as a reminder. The court in Haddonfield case with Fair Share Housing Center did submit and sign an order that, among other things, required the borough commissioners to, 1, consider redevelopment plan amendments, which of course you've already done. We did that back in December. And 2, by February 10th, to consider a resolution adopting a purchase and sale agreement and a redevelopment agreement for the Bancroft redevelopment project. And in the event that we do not adopt a resolution approving the purchase and sale agreement and the redevelopment agreement for that redevelopment project, on the 12th, we are to file papers showing why our builder's remedy should not be revoked and why we should not be subject to penalty and attorney's fees, with a hearing scheduled for, I forget the exact dates, but by the end of February. So the court has essentially, I'll defer to Sal, but extraordinarily fast-tracked the litigation process in the event that we do not comply with that court order. So with that as the background, you do have before you tonight a resolution that does 3 things. 1, it designates Woodmont Bancroft LLC as the redeveloper of the Bancroft property. We'll get into what property that is in a minute. 2, it approves a redevelopment agreement with that same developer. And 3, it approves a purchase and sale agreement, which authorizes the sale by the borough of that property to our redeveloper. So let me talk a little bit about the project, because it certainly has evolved, and I know it was source of a lot of discussion that we've had at the last couple of meetings that I've been at. And where applicable, I'm going to compare the redevelopment project that you're contracting for via the redevelopment agreement and the purchase and sale agreement with what is permitted by the redevelopment plan that you adopted and amended in December, right? Because we did adopt a plan that, for example, allows 120 units. We are not building 120 units, right? So where there are differences between what the plan allows, which is our outer box, as we described it last time, versus what we are actually proposing to build here by contract, I'll certainly point those out. And the first one is just that. Woodmont is proposing to build a total of 98 residential rental units. That includes 12 affordable housing units and 86 market rate units. As I just noted, the redevelopment plan allows for up to 120 residential rental units. We are not doing that. We are building 98 total residential units as proposed. Those 98 total units are in 3 buildings. One carriage style building that runs along the berm by Kings Highway, and 2 4-story residential buildings. And I think in a minute, we're going to be pulling up a concept plan for you and the public to see that will sort of show from an illustrative perspective how the site is laid out. So 3 total buildings, not 4 buildings as previously contemplated. 210 parking spaces in a variety of means, detached garages, inclusive garages, surface parking spaces in compliance with the parking requirements under the redevelopment plan. The redeveloper will adaptively reuse 2 of the 3 historic structures that remain today at the Bancroft property. Why only 2? Because the third one is on what is now borough retained property, right? So the 2 structures that are on the Woodmont property, they will be responsible to adaptively rehab, renovate, and reuse. And the third structure, because we have shrunk the site, remains for you to maintain, update, and do whatever you're going to do with it.
From what to what? On size. You've talked twice about reducing the size of.
Oh, yeah. So that was next, right? So the purchase and sale agreement contemplates that we are selling 6 acres of property to the redeveloper. We had a lot of discussions about how the original redevelopment plan, going back to its inception, contemplated 8.2 acres for residential development. That has been reduced from 8.2 acres. We are selling 6 acres. So where we once had about 4.95 acres of borough retained land at Bancroft, we now have over 7 acres of borough retained land at Bancroft. And again, the purchase and sale agreement before you is only for 6 acres of land. And there's a good illustration there of the 3 main buildings. And what you can really see towards the top is the shrunken property line, right? Those extra 2.2 acres effectively are, it's not geographically north, but looking at the map, north of those 2 sets of garages. That is all additional land that is now the borough's land that we are not selling to the developer.
And right now, people aren't listening to you because they're staring, so why don't we take a minute? If you want to go up and take a look at it, be our guest. Honestly, in just the spirit of transparency, this is the first time we're seeing this because we are negotiating to the very last second. In the send back to the drawing board, it's gone back to the drawing board many times over the last month. It's why Exhibit A was blank. Because it's why Exhibit A in the agenda as it was put online was blank, because we were still negotiating.
It's not public.
It's not public comment yet, Walter. All right, thank you. No, we just, yeah, we took a pause just so, because nobody was listening. They all wanted to see it.
No, yeah,
All right, thanks, man.
Yep, so the 7.15 acres of borough retained land, that will be deed restricted for passive open space use. The purchase price for the 6 acres is $4.3 million. We have also agreed on the core terms of a payment in lieu of taxes for the property in order to make the project financially viable. So in lieu of paying conventional taxes on the property, the developer will pay a percentage of annual gross revenues annually for a 30-year period. Annual gross revenues are exactly that. They are the total calculation of all revenues received by the developer at this project from any source. The obvious ones are rent, right? The majority of the revenue is going to be rental revenue paid for from the 98 units. But if they are charging for garage parking, if they are charging for lower level storage, if they are charging a premium if you have a pet, any additional charges are also revenue. And our computation of their tax bill, if you will, is based on gross revenue. We don't care about their operating expenses. This isn't a net proposition, right? It's simply gross. We calculate off of that. So with that in mind, the developer is going to pay a payment in lieu of tax equal to 10% of their annual gross revenues for the first 10 years, 11% of annual gross revenue for 5 years, 12% of annual gross revenue for 5 years, and 13% of annual gross revenue for their final 10 years. That results in a pilot payment to the borough of approximately $18.76 million over that 30-year period. The developer will pay about $19.35 million. But remember that with a pilot, 95% of the pilot dollar comes to the borough, the 5% is obligated to go to the county. So effectively, the difference between those two numbers is the amount of the pilot that has to go to the county.
Sure. So before we leave the pilot discussion, is it fair to say conventionally taxed for every $100,000, the borough would receive $17,000? Because that's the borough portion
You get
on a flat tax.
You get 18 cents on every,
Right.
just over 18 cents on every dollar.
And as a pilot, for every $100,000, the borough will receive $95,000.
$95,000, correct. Yeah, I mean, the order of magnitude, if this project were conventionally taxed, it wouldn't get built. Mathematically, it does not produce enough of a return on investment for A, a construction bank to lend money to have it built, or B, for the equity investors to contribute their money, put their capital at risk, and for the return they would get. Nonetheless, if in some hypothetical world it were built and conventionally taxed, the borough would get about $6.2 million over 30 years. Again, you'd get zero. It would stay exactly as it is today, which I appreciate some people may want, but that's not where we're going. So in lieu of zero, in lieu of a hypothetical 6 million, it's over $18 million across that 30-year period. The pilot is approved via a separate process, so it comes at a later date. The developer has to file an application. We have to ultimately approve it by ordinance, but that essential term is memorialized in the redevelopment agreement because it's critical to the overall financial package, which of course includes the purchase price. And at that discussion, I'm happy to talk through the analysis, or now later if you'd like, of how we go through the process of figuring out what the correct pilot is supposed to be. Because while we want the developer to be successful and make money, we also want to make sure that they're not making too much money and that we are collecting revenue that is rightly due to us for this project.
Matt, in construction like this, where there's a mix of both, the market rate units and also affordable housing units, are pilots common or uncommon?
Extremely common. The reality is when you have, 12, 15, 20% affordable in a project, they are a significant financial drag on a project, right? If you had a 100% market rate project, arguably that math, it's much harder for that math to bear out that you need a pilot in order to make that work. Your $1.5 million for sale condos, pilots don't really work, even if there are perhaps some inclusionary units in that circumstance. But in this type of multifamily residential at this scale, at again 12+% of the affordable units, yes, a pilot is necessary. And again, the math bears that out, right? This is not really a subjective analysis, and you all know, but for the benefit of the public, you have a municipal advisor who is your advocate, right? Represents you in validating all of the math of the developer, their construction cost estimates, their operating cost assumptions, their rental assumptions, validates them, pushes back, challenges them, and says, this is what we believe is fair both to you and to us. And there's a lot of back and forth to the point that you've made. I mean, the back and forth has literally gone up to the 11th and a half hour for sure.
And it's also safe to say that from a pilot standpoint, the majority of the money comes to the municipality because there are significant disruptive costs that we need to take care of. We own the land, so we have to start paying back as fast as we can. The cost of that.
Yeah, and in your particular case, you have what I'll call legacy costs from this property, right? You bought this property. You paid for this property originally. The purchase price to sell it back now, you are not selling all of it back. The purchase price is not enough to get rid of all of that cost that you incurred. You have incurred, other redevelopment costs when this was going to be a 90-unit project, but for the developer not moving ahead, right?
Brian O'Neill.
Costs, correct.
Okay.
You have costs from demoing unsafe structures on the property, right? All of those are costs. And so in order to offset those costs, yet alone any cost in increasing constituent services, et cetera, the pilot, by focusing those dollars to the borough, helps to take care of those costs. Correct.
So what's next?
So I want to go through, because of the sort of 11th hour, I just want to go through the couple of places where the redevelopment agreement and purchase and sale agreement are different than the versions that have been out there since November, right? Certainly, you all have, and the public have had the opportunity to look at those versions going back several months. Most of this will be repetitive, but in light of the time frame, and in light of the fact that, literally, you print the red lines, there are 3 pages, it's a lot of changes. I do want to make sure everybody is informed and aware of those couple changes, and then I'll talk about sort of next steps. So with the redevelopment agreement, the changes from the version that's been out there for a few months, we went from 120 units down to 98 units, 4 buildings instead of 3, 2 existing structures that the developer is going to take care of, and 1 that obviously is now on you.
Matt, and important clarification, that is 98 units inclusive of the top. I just want
In total,
Yes.
98 units in total, 86 market rate units and 12 affordable units, correct. The development going from the developable land going from 8.2 acres down to 6 acres, and the borough retained land going up by a commensurate amount is obviously a change. The terms of the pilot that I just went through that are memorialized in the redevelopment agreement is a change. The breakdown of affordable units by type. We had 18 units. How many are 1, 2, and 3 bedrooms? By what income distribution level? Now we're down to 12, same thing. An agreement to deed restrict the borough-owned retained property is new. I think from everything I've heard, that was part of our plan. So it was easy to say yes, but that was a sort of collective discussion to deed restrict that borough retained land for passive open space use. Quarterly presentation of the commissioners at a public meeting. So the agreement already talks about progress meetings and progress reports that the developer has to perform monthly. But now in addition, we've added that once they commence construction, somebody from their team has to come here before you once a quarter to explain where they are in the construction process and where they're going for that next quarter, so that you and the public hear directly from the developer and or construction rep exactly what's going on at that site, what can be expected, what adjustments, if any, need to be made, et cetera. And finally, a cap on the redeveloper's cost to fund borough defense costs in a litigation matter. So in the event that there is a future litigation that challenges your actions, your adoption of this resolution at a meeting that isn't properly called, for example, or a lack of quorum, which obviously we have here, any type of challenge to your approvals or the approval of the planning board, the developer is responsible for your costs, but only up to $75,000. After that, it's coming out of the purchase price, effectively out of everybody's pockets if that doesn't happen. On the purchase and sale agreement, the only change obviously is the change of the purchase price. We're selling less land, we're developing less units, so the purchase price, as I mentioned earlier, has gone from $6 million down to $4.3 million. Otherwise, the redevelopment agreement has everything in it that you're used to seeing, including a project schedule. So that's, Commissioner Seidel, where we talk about, right, where do we go next? So the purchase and sale agreement, the redevelopment agreement are the framework for how we get this property sold and developed. The purchase and sale agreement starts with two things. One, redeveloper due diligence, which is important, right? They have to go to that land, they have to inspect the land, they do environmental, they have to do a survey. We have to figure out the exact delineation. I mean, you could see it before more or less, but they have to have meets and bounds line drawn of their property versus our property. We need that because the second thing that has to be done under the purchase and sale agreement is we have to file for subdivision, right? We own that land. It is one parcel of land today. We need to file a subdivision that says 6.0 acres to be fair, is going to be sold to Woodmont, and the 7.15 acres is going to retain with us.
Deed restricted.
And ultimately deed restricted.
Right.
First subdivided, sold. We filed the deed restriction basically at the same time as all this is happening. In fact, the purchase sale agreement requires the deed restriction to be filed effectively immediately, once we know the boundaries. So we're going to the developer's going to do due diligence. We're going to separate the two properties. And then that's going to start a clock, right? Where the developer will have, X days to submit from the subdivision approval date to submit their site plan application at the planning board. Remember, this project is going to be evaluated by planning board, by HPC, by SHPO, just like any other project would. Right. The only difference here is that this project will be evaluated by the planning board against the redevelopment plan, as opposed to whatever underlying zoning ordinances exist. But planning board's going to have one or more public hearings. HPC is going to have to act. The planning board process is going to be like any other planning board process. The developer is going to have to submit a traffic study. They're going to have to submit, engineering. They're going to have to submit all of the same documents, all of the same reports, bring all of the same professionals. The planning board is going to have its same professionals evaluating the project, stormwater, water and sewer utility. All of those things are going to occur the way any other project that wasn't a redevelopment project is being built in town. So that is, after we get the subdivision, that is sort of the key next step. From site plan approval, assuming there is site plan approval, then the developer has X days to file for all of its other governmental approvals. So if it needs county approval for something, which it will, if it needs DOT or DEP approval, it certainly will need DEP approval, right? Any other governmental approval other than planning board, it starts filing for after it gets subdivision and site plan approval, which is all common as can be in redevelopment projects. And this is always the order we follow.
Yeah, you wouldn't spend money on something that you're not allowed to do.
Exactly right. You're not going to spend money today, for example, on a traffic study when you don't even know whether the land is a suitable condition to construct the project that you're in, right? Nobody does, right? Whether it's a 4-unit project or a 98-unit project. There's an order to all of this. No different than any other redevelopment project or really any other project that needs those types of approvals. They get all their governmental approvals. They have a wide number of days to commence construction. By the way, these dates are 30 to 60 essentially, and they are in the redevelopment agreement that's out. And then they have 24 months basically from commencement of construction to complete construction. So the lion's share of this in the beginning is going to be subdivision and getting the subdivision approval. Then it's going to be planning board approval. Then it's going to be probably 18 plus months for all the other governmental approvals after that. And then it's going to be, plus or minus 2 years of construction moving forward.
So they have a lot of sunk costs right at the beginning that once they go through all of these studies, at any point, they're spending money, we're not.
Correct.
Okay.
You're not spending any money.
Is there anything else we asked for them in this deal to improve infrastructure for Haddonfield?
So that's a great point. In addition to the redevelopment agreement, already obligating them to provide and perform any on and off-site infrastructure improvements that are reasonably necessary for their project, right? Not just curb in, not just inside their 6 acres, but, connections out to the main, Hopkins Lane from Kings Highway to the end of their site is clearly going to get, sort of a beating from all of their trucks in and out. They will have to repave that. They know that. That's an issue that will come up at planning board. But in addition to all of those, what I would call standard infrastructure improvements that they are obligated on their own to construct, they are also putting up to $250,000 effectively to pave from the edge of their property on Hopkins all the way down to the gate, right? The remainder of their property, not their property, the remainder of the road beyond their property that they are not and would not reasonably be responsible for. We had put in a point here where they're gonna cover that cost. And the up to $250,000 number is not a number obviously out of thin air, nor was it purely negotiated. It's the result of us having previously looked at that cost, understanding what it is, building in a cushion factor and saying, this is what you're going to contribute. So that's the key additional infrastructure item over and above everything else that they'll have to perform in the ordinary course of getting their project approved by.
Well, they're not the only ones beating the crap out of Hopkins Lane. There's going to be construction on the other side due to the school district's referendum work as well. So the school district won't be on the hook to fix Hopkins from anything they beat up. It's all going to really, and it'll probably happen before this one finishes up. So it's fair to say that we're asking them to cover Haddonfield cost, no matter how it happened.
And coordination will be important, right? And what we've seen to date and what we expect going forward, not just from our, discussions with Woodmont from the moment we started going through this multi-month selection process, but ever since, is that, they're going to be on top of an issue like that, right? They're
Sure.
Even if they're done first and the school's trailing 3 months behind, they're going to come and chat with you and say, well, we're not going to do it just to have you guys tear it up again in 3 months.
So they'll wait and
We'll
we'll,
coordinate,
Yeah.
figure these things out, right?
I mean, and that's it. I'm just pointing it out. It's pretty important because otherwise it's on us.
No, and again, it's infrastructure improvements, water, sewer, those are all standard. This was a little bit of an above and beyond that's worth calling out for sure.
Sure. No, thank you. Frank, any more questions?
I don't have any. Thanks, Matt.
No, thanks for the update.
Sure.
All right, at this time, I'm going to move on to letter F, public comment for agenda items. I don't have the statement because I wasn't prepared for this, so you get 5 minutes on agenda items only. That would be any agenda item before or after this, but only agenda items at this time. There'll be another comment period at the end of our discussions for any topic you would like to discuss, and that would be letter I after our resolutions. So I'll make a motion to open the floor for public comment.
Second.
Voting on that motion, Commissioner Troy,
In favor.
Commissioner Seidel.
In favor. And before, Chris, you start, I'm going to point out there is a clock that is visible to you
Oh, cool.
so that you can see how much time you have left and you can manage your 5 minutes however you wish.
Want that clock right there?
That's right. No, they'll hit the button. You'll see 5 minutes as soon as it.
Thank you. Chris Maines, 7 Roberts Avenue. The mayor and the other commissioners could be here tonight taking a victory lap for themselves in the town putting an end to this issue once and for all by voting for a resolution to just build 10 affordable units. Had the commission started that process months ago, started that conversation with the affordable housing judge months ago, you wouldn't be here tonight telling us that we have a gun to our head. We have to sign this Woodmont deal now or else. In fairness to you, Frank, you didn't vote yes on May 13th, 2024. And Dave, you weren't in office on May 13th, 2024. It was the mayor and Roche who steamrolled that illegal vote through, despite the public objections being made prior to that vote over Roche's residency status. And it was that event that set us on this course. But now you are participating effectively under duress in tonight's vote, while a legally sound lawsuit, which is alive and in progress, seeks to set aside and invalidate the resolution designating Woodmont as the redeveloper. As a plaintiff in that lawsuit, I'm not going to stray into what if scenarios here, but I want to matter of factly remind you and the residents here tonight, 3 very valid counts underpinning our suit. Count 1, commissioners are required to be residents of Haddonfield. Roche was not, and this issue was raised publicly to the commissioners prior to the vote. Yet Roche and the mayor voted to designate Woodmont as the redeveloper. The commissioners' actions with the participation of Commissioner Roche were ultra vires, translation beyond one's legal power or authority. I'll skip to count 3 for a second. Failure to provide proper notice of that meeting. Just another example of a lack of transparency we've seen from the commission, which is getting better. Thank you now, but it's not the case back then. But now let's talk about count 2. Despite the RFP's emphasis on proposals for age-targeted and for-sale units, Woodmont's response proposed neither. Instead, Woodmont proposed a development consisting of 120 non-age-restricted rental apartments. While all the attention is on count 1 in the Roche issue, which on its own is enough to invalidate the May 13th vote, let's not lose sight of count 2 and the fact that the Woodmont proposal is not responsive to the RFP, and there is nothing that can be done to make the Woodmont proposal responsive to the RFP. The borough has tried to legally maneuver around this in recent months, including amending the Bancroft redevelopment plan against strong opposition from the planning board in an effort to aid Woodmont's cause by allowing for rental units. However, while the borough has the right to amend the redevelopment plan and nobody is challenging that, the RFP clearly stated that this could only be done with respect to the RFP process if market and/or site conditions warranted such a change. For sale units in Haddonfield are in high demand, and the site itself is indifferent to the for sale versus rental status of the buildings atop the site. So the market and/or site conditions do not support these after the fact changes to the RFP, which were made for the benefit of one of the RFP's respondents via amendments to the redevelopment plan. Additionally, the RFP clearly emphasized a preference for age-targeted or age-restricted units. Woodmont's proposal is in no way age-targeted or age-restricted, and there is no legal maneuver available to the borough which can moot this point. The borough had 8 other RFP responses, and arguably all 8 of them were more responsive to the RFP than the Woodmont proposal. Yet the borough arbitrarily, capriciously, and unreasonably chose Woodmont after a deliberation process done entirely without the public's knowledge or input. And now you are pushing this deal through under duress, digging a deeper and deeper hole for the borough when you could have and should be here tonight passing a resolution just built 10. Perhaps the lawsuit will yield you a second chance to get this right down the road. If it does, I hope you do the right thing.
So if I could just note, I think it's important, as Mr. Maines, as you indicated, you're a plaintiff in a lawsuit. The lawsuit's ongoing. You are represented by very competent and capable counsel, and several of your comments obviously were your own individual opinion. There were a few legal terms in there, which obviously, again, these, when we start talking about things as being arbitrary and capricious, that's a legal standard. Ultra vires, that's also. I know, and those are your legal arguments. Nothing's been found by a court of law, and that's why I allowed you to have those statements. But I think the record's clear that these are. It's an ongoing litigation. Again, the judge hasn't made any decisions, and these are arguments through counsel. Just so you know, no findings.
Next, Jim?
Jim Twitchell, Jefferson Avenue. Under your resolutions under consent number 22, authorization to transfer deeds for scattered affordable housing properties. Have you purchased new properties recently? Or which properties are these? Because I thought the deeds have been transferred for the 5 sites already, Lake, Fowler, Commons, Stiles, Tanner.
Tanner's not.
It's Tanner. Okay.
Yeah, we covered that at the work session, that's exactly right. That these are the 2 remaining,
1 of 2,
or 1 of 2 remaining.
27A and B or whatever.
or 26 and 26A, but it's 1 of 2, not both, just 1 of 2.
On that note, I've filed several Oprah requests in the past year, trying to get information regarding the ongoings of the Haddonfield Housing Authority. One back in July, where I received information regarding minutes of meetings and tax information. Didn't get everything to look for, so I went back to the borough clerk asking for clarification. Did not receive an answer at that time. Went back to them via second request in December, asking for more minutes and more tax information. Again, had received that prior in July. I was told this time that the borough does not maintain those records. I then went back to the clerk's office in writing as to how that could be. Again, no answer. I think I mentioned this in my last meeting. Deanna and Bernadette have been working for this town for collectively 100 years.
It feels like it
Feels
sometimes.
like it. They know how to do their job. It's just very, very strange that that would be the response. And in the interest of transparency and whatnot, I need some sort of an answer as to why that information that was available, that type of information that was available back in July, is no longer available. My interest in what's going on with the housing authority is more expedient now, because my understanding is with the upcoming 4th round obligation, we no longer have the Bancroft type projects. There's no room, we don't own the land for that. Standalones like Snowden over here, I guess the jury's still out, but 2,500 people did apply for that, and that the argument of economic segregation, time will tell, but I understand that's not a popular method of fulfilling our obligation, which leaves scattered sites. So I think scattered sites and the operation of that agency is critical to fulfilling our obligation on this 4th round. And I have to say too, our initial interest in this was never about disrespecting or questioning the ability of volunteers. It never was, Frank. And I just want to say that out loud, because that's not an issue. Wasn't and isn't. We've all been volunteers in group. We know how hard they work, but we want to make sure this operation runs as smoothly as possible. It's a lot of borough money, and it may be the only way going forward to fulfill our obligations. So that's why we're asking questions. So would like to get an answer as to what the holdup is with information. Thank you.
Thanks, Jim.
Ducking up your 321, that's all following up.
Could you say your last name for
K-A-N-P-K-E, Knupke. Following up on that resident's comments, I'm also trying to find information about the Haddonfield Housing Agency. It's not on the website, very little information on the public domain about it. And it leads me to think there's probably something nefarious going on with respect to that organization. So whatever you can do to make it available, put it in the public domain, make it transparent, would be appreciated.
Thank you. Thank you.
wonder. It's great.
Well, that's
Turned
because
it
you
green.
turned
I just turned it.
it off here.
All right. And anyway, so you have some, Noel, he's on there and he's an engineer. Is this something new or is he a new entry or anybody know what's going on with her?
No, you're on.
Yeah, no, we can say, you ask all your questions and then we can tackle some of the ones that we.
All right. Also, our zoning officer, Tavis quit. He used to give a report like police and fire do, listing all the expenditures, all the income from the permits and fees and what have you. And he's not here anymore. No one's replaced him at the meetings. I mean, that's not an issue, but we should have the report of how much money we're making with the permits and so forth. We used to have it every month and it hasn't been even months and months and months. And on this 98 units for Bancroft, I was told it was going to be age targeted. So this is an issue. Of course, we don't want to add a lot of increased student population. Now, out of the 98 units, it doesn't say how many bedrooms the 98 units are. They all could be 3 bedrooms. It doesn't state in the agreement. Now, it does state in the affordable housing that 1 bedroom, there's going to be 1 low income, 1 moderate income, 2 bedrooms. And for 2 bedrooms, it's 1 low, very low, 2 low, 4 moderate, 7. And then 3 bedroom, it's 1 very low, 1 low, 1 moderate for a total of 3. And anyhow, that equals to 12. And they're family rentals, and which means that they're not age restricted. So I'm asking about the 98 units. It doesn't say how many bedrooms they are, and it's going to make an impact on the community as far as it does say cars, how many cars and 210 parking spaces, but it doesn't say how many bedrooms. So I'd like that information, please. And this new, is this new hire, a new position with the planning board and the zoning board, the same person is serving on both boards?
Sure. Well, to go through the process of what a board does, so planning and zoning both have alternates.
Right.
And as they replace, the alternates move up. So when you said part of those are actually it's into full seat positions and then you backfill.
Well, here's the list of planning and zoning board.
Sure.
And
Well, and I'm going to ask Sharon to cover.
so I
cover
did
that.
check that. You're right.
Sure.
And I did verify that it looks like it's a totally new position.
Your other question about Tavis and the reports, next month, as you heard from all of the updates that our March works, is it Sharon, our March work session or meeting session are going to be the year-end updates from the departments?
The action meeting and the reports are still in there. They are in the agenda. There was never anything in there regarding the funds that were received. That was always part of revenue and finance, just pointing out how much money came in from construction. But the reports on activity is still. It's called Community Development Office. That's the construction office, and that's the information.
Wow, that's rough. On the 98 market rate units, Matt, do you have comment on that question?
Sure. The only 3-bedroom units are the affordable units that are mentioned in the matrix that the resident was referring to earlier. All of the market rate units are 1-bedroom and 2-bedroom. The average ends up being 1.6, which is well below the redevelopment plan.
Right, and so below the redevelopment. Little too, but not much. The 12 units cannot be age restricted, cannot be any restricted other than determine which type of affordable housing it is targeting.
Correct. The 12 units are happy family. They cannot be senior or otherwise age restricted. They are going to be restricted based on income, not based on age.
Right, okay.
Well, that's
Right, so the rest are 1 and 2 bedroom units in the 98.
The
84.
Oh, I'm sorry, the 86.
86. No. So there are 98 total units being constructed, right? 12 of them are going to be the affordable units. That leaves 86 market.
I'm sorry, you might not be aware of this, but it was reported. It was 110 units.
Yeah, that was poor reporting. And
Yes, so, Matt, if I can take that. That was not reported by the borough. The borough reported, yes, I know it was misinformation, not by the borough. The borough posted on Friday the number of units, and I even took to social media and clarified the number of units. That is 98 inclusive of the 12, which means includes.
And from a quick math standpoint, 86, 42, so just over 42 will be 2 bedroom units. The rest will be 1 bedroom units. If I just sat here and I was a math major, but I don't have a calculator, it's probably 48 units are 2 bedroom and 44 units are 1 bedroom. It's never age targeted, but I will say any building that's 3 or 4 stories is gonna have an elevator and not a lot of maintenance. I'm getting older. That's pretty good to me. So any more questions from the public on agenda items?
David Unigas, 419 North Vernon Avenue. I want to note on a number of levels that I find the handling of this meeting inappropriate, highly inappropriate. And that is not just because of the mayor's absence, who was the party to much of the original issues of which our lawsuit and much of the contention has to deal with. She may be at the Super Bowl. However, this is perhaps one of the most important meetings in borough history. And she chose not to be here. I find it also highly inappropriate, given the fact that the borough was notified by legal deposition under oath. The Commissioner Roach effectively lied and admitted he lied as to his residency when he cast a vote back in May of 2024 that is noted as being legally valid in this document and predicated along the chain of events that supports the action of here tonight. I find it astonishing that a commissioner admits under oath that he lied about his residency and still cast a vote. It was known under November. No one, especially the mayor, took any action to bring that to light. No attorney took any action to say that this may cause issues to the borough. Ethically disgraceful, if not legally inappropriate, if not suspicious as to how it wasn't known and the rumors were true. I find it highly inappropriate that something as important as this, that the purchase price, the attachment of the building plan, the tax funds are only presented verbally by the attorney at the very last minute in the meeting. Disgraceful. Disgraceful handling. There is no effective ability of anybody in the community to evaluate the cost of this or the income or the footprint of it, which I might add, despite the attorney saying that these are all fixed things. I note language that say there are approximately 38 private driveway spaces, approximately 38 integrated garage spaces, approximately 24 detached garage spaces, which proposal may be revised from time to time as the parties develop such project as contemplated thereby. These are not fixed. And I will also note that the stated $250,000 to repave Hopkins Lane does not cover any cost past the bridge. And I do believe all those trucks and all that damage and all that extra traffic will tear up that little tiny road and cause the borough extra money. So if they think their traffic just happens to go down to the bridge and turn around, and that's the only damage that we're gonna incur because of all this extra language, I find it a little astonishing to have accepted that assumption. I will also note that there is no time frame other than the vague word kindly as to Woodmont being required to provide reports related to wetlands requirements, environmental assessments, soil tests, etc. Timely. They're asking for quarterly reports. I would suggest that a monthly update at the least might be more appropriate than having some associate of Woodmont show up here and present whatever they need to present. And so that is why I think the handling of this is something as important as this for the borough on a land as treasured as this, that has been here since Elizabeth Haddon walked into this area. It was caused by bad financial handling at the very beginning and has ended up here at 9 o'clock before the last day without the mayor present, with a vote admitted by the commissioner and known to the people in this room in November, still going along with it like it's okay. I'm amazed that that is how we are conducting ourselves here as this government.
One second, Kim, and if I could just put for the record, I know Mr. Unibarth is very passionate about this, obviously, same comments I would call your attention with regard to Mr. Maine's comments. He's a named plaintiff in the lawsuit, they have capable counsel. Some of his comments addressed depositions and testimony. There never was a finding by any court of law that any commissioner lied under oath. Just so the record is clear, that's. No, it's a legal.
I found it appropriate that you can get a line in and I'm cut off and I can't respond. We put proper context.
Well, I'll save my comment, but other than to describe my situation as somebody who wasn't here. I think back to a football game. We all watched one last night. If the defense jumps off sides, the play goes on until the play is over, and then it's ruled upon. That's how I see the difference, and you could correct me if I'm wrong. That one really has nothing to do with the other from where I sit. And that is whether or not that was legal or not has nothing to do with the timeline of the other lawsuit, which is the fair share lawsuit and all those dates that are dictated on us. Whether or not we do this, one of the other public comments said it plain. If that invalidates anything, that doesn't shirk my responsibility tonight to move forward as if that doesn't even exist, because that will come or it won't come. But what will come is tomorrow. And tomorrow is what will come in a different court. That has nothing to do with the legality of the selection process back in May. It wasn't even here. But I do know that if we don't move tonight, by the end of the month, we will have lawsuits from a builder who wants to build at Bancroft, from the guy that probably would want to tear down Archer Griner and build something humongous that right now isn't economically feasible. For somebody that will run out and buy 2 of the bank properties, probably one of the I was gonna say cemeteries, but not cemetery, the funeral homes, which take up a lot of land, and build something. And that's not something I'm going to wait for the ruling of the referee to take care of. So moving forward, yes, if that gets invalidated, it gets invalidated. It's just the next thing we have to deal with. That's how I feel about it. Yeah, sure, I actually will give you a chance to respond. I'm in charge of the meeting.
David, I appreciate those comments. And I fully appreciate your position and your positions. Commission, and you, Commissioner Troy, for voting against this in the beginning and Dave for now in the courage to do it. My point is this. Regardless of that, we all sit and wait until Friday and whatever that vote does and whatever borough does to go around it. It was known legally by the borough's attorney that the commissioner lied all the way back in November, and no action was taken. The mayor didn't talk about it. It was known only to the plaintiffs. But time could have been spent since then. And that is my point. It is not the time frame of what happens Friday. It is what happened in November when Commissioner Roach, a commissioner, lied that he committed fraud as to his residency and his voting. And nothing was done on the borough's behalf when something as astonishing as that was known. And something could have been done. Something could have been done to help this borough maneuver and get out of this horrible calamity of somebody selling us out for over 100 units. That may seem good at 98 now. That's my problem. That's my problem, that nobody said anything or did anything when a commissioner admitted he lied.
Thank you. No, Dr. Hope, it is not your turn. It is Kim Custer's. And because we are at the dais, we do get to respond. So go ahead.
Just for the record, so the record's clear, there never was a finding, there never was an admission that a commissioner lied. I understand you're passionate about it, David. I understand you're very passionate. It's my obligation as legal counsel. There never was a finding that a commissioner lied. It wasn't. I understand your passion. I respect the board. There never was a finding.
All right, thank you. Kim.
Kim Custer, 48 Norman Avenue, Delran. Wow, I never thought I would be living in another town to see this decision tonight. 18 years you stood here and pleaded with this town to protect Bancroft from high density development, whether it was drug rehab, other ideas that came and went. We fought them all, only to get it stuck with this. This is not the town's legacy. This is going to be on you guys, the commissioners who signed this deal. The town didn't want it. We made it quite clear. And now it's happening. It's going to be on you. So when you guys get to walk your grandchildren on this site and show them the legacy that you're leaving, this is what you're leaving: a high density, high development that nobody wanted. All I can ask for now is some redemption. There is historic significance on that property that has been completely ignored. With the little property that we're going to have left, it is your obligation to make sure that that park honors Margaret Bancroft and every person that stood here and tried to protect that property. We want an amazing community park there that honors everything that we fought for 18 years. This is a travesty. This has been a travesty of legacy of commissioners after commissioners and administrators that just never got it. And now we're stuck with a development that now nobody wants. And it's going to be a legacy. Instead of having like the high-speed line, we're supposed to go above the town. The town fought for it because the town used to care how this town used to look. Now we have just cashed it all in, and it's really a shame. But I really hope that we can redeem ourselves with how we go forward. And I hope we redeem ourselves with Walworth Hall and Boxwood. They're the only two historic properties left that we need to fight for. And I do need some clarification on what two historic properties or sites that we're going to be protecting, which one is now the town being stuck with, because I can't really see on the plan. It's
the one that's partly wood, partly stone. Yeah, the stone building is the one that we'll still retain.
Okay. Out of all the historical significance, that one has the most. So I really hope that we really do redeem ourselves with that. And
as it's going through the process of planning board HPC, can we fight the number of units? This is a high density development. Thank you.
This is gonna be quick. I just wanted to review for you the minutes of May 13th, 2024, if none of you have read your own minutes. Mary Burke was here. She asked for clarity about the rumor that Kevin Roach no longer lived in this town. You were here then, the mayor was here then, Mr. Roach was here then. Were you here then, Sal? And Sharon was here. And no one said anything. It was silent. It was peaceful. No one said, gee, that's a funny question for a work session. Anyway, there was no response. So she came back on May 28th. This is in your minutes, 2024. And she said again, she said she had attended the May 13th, 2024 meeting. She had asked whether Commissioner Roach, where he laid his head. She said, Commissioner Roach, this quote, where do you lay your head at night? Washington, D.C. or Haddonfield? And then, according to your minutes, she was given no response to her question. So this is before November, that this group heard that there was a question about where he lived. You would think the police might investigate, somebody might investigate where he laid his head. You heard that, right? May 13th?
No, I've been asked this already.
Okay, and what did you think? Isn't it? That's a weird question. Maybe as a mistress of Collingswood, is that the question? Anyway, I just want this in the minutes, that it was in your minutes before, twice that this question was asked here before, and no one thought, oh, what a curious question. Where does he lay his head? Washington, D.C. or Haddonfield?
So I can respond to that. As I was asked about this twice, maybe even 3 times,
Well, it's documented twice.
I asked Kevin what his intention was, because it was very obvious that his house was for sale.
Actually, his house had been sold by the time of the meetings.
Well, his house was for sale months before
Exactly.
he sold it.
And it was sold and signed the thing saying that was no longer his permanent residence.
So I asked Kevin what his intention was, and he said his intention was to obtain a rental unit in town and fulfill his requirements and then move on to somewhere else. I said, having worked with Kevin for over 2 years at that point, I didn't have any reason nor any authority to challenge him or say, I need to see where you're resting your head at night and stuff like that. Quite honestly, if he counted that with me, I'd be offended and said, all right, well, if that's the case, then so be it. So
Asked you that and you were living in DC, would you have been offended or you just lied?
So if I ask Kevin and he says that he's obtained a residence, a rental residence.
So you didn't.
No, Susan, this isn't a complete back and forth.
Yeah, so
May 13th.
Thank you. It's in the minutes. Yes.
And I'm gonna go on the record for saying, I'm not gonna play amateur sleuth and find out where he sleeps at night, or where Colleen sleeps at night, or wherever anyone else is running. That's not your job as a commissioner. That's Kevin's job as the acting commissioner at the time to respond to that question.
Now,
Well, if you want to ask me, do I live in Haddonfield? I absolutely do live in Haddonfield on 115 Windsor Avenue.
Susan, no. There's someone else at the lectern. It's just rude.
Hi, my name is Dana Reginald. I live on Mount Vernon Avenue. I'm going to follow up on the borough procedure with regard to some questions were just asked. Who reviewed and approved Kevin Roach's lease as valid proof of residency?
No reason.
When the veracity of his residency was questioned in May at the time of the commissioner's vote, did anyone take any steps to investigate?
Don't know.
When I was at a borough meeting, the one that I attended before, someone had said that they saw the lease. Is the lease in possession of the people here?
I would assume it was discovered?
The plaintiffs.
Okay, thank you.
So, and then my other question, and these are for my own personal curiosity. Will the mayor, any commissioner, solicitor, clerk, zoning officer, any other contracted person, or any extended family members of those benefit financially or personally from the Woodmont land deal?
I don't. I do not my line of work.
Okay, are there any conflict of interest disclosure agreements among these people that I just mentioned as part of these agreements?
I mean, well, to answer your question, no one's benefiting financially. I mean, in terms of conflict with the redevelopment agreement, or conflict of disclosure or disclosure. Yeah.
He's thinking out loud.
I'm addressing my comments to Mr. Jessup. I'm asking him, he's the borough's redevelopment council. I'm trying to be responsive to, Ms. Raganado's question.
I'm not trying to follow the question, but what I would say is that the redevelopment agreement specifies who owns Woodmont, right? And there's no one.
So if there is any conflict of interest that somebody would benefit from picking Woodmont, is there a disclosure agreement that negates that that's a possibility, that everybody involved in this development would not benefit from this?
So when you run for office, you have to fill out a disclosure agreement.
We have to follow it
annually.
Oh, yeah, annually, yeah, sure, yeah.
But in answering your question, as Mr. Jessup just said, so there's a disclosure statement for those who are the owners of Woodmont. So they are disclosing who are the owners. I don't even know who they are, candidly. So I think, yes, to answer your question, by comparing that financial disclosure of the owners of Woodmont, you can compare that. Everyone on this day, as the elected officials, myself, have to file an annual financial disclosure, and you can compare that and see if there's any financial conflicts.
Commissioner
So that's
Troy-
an affirmative, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're
Commissioner Troy, why did you vote no in May?
So, and I brought this up in public forum in the past, that, you know, so the biggest stumbling blocks for me actually were not open space. If you go back to anything I post about it, it's nice to have open space. It wasn't like my die on the hill issues. My die on the hill issues was I would rather have for sale units, and I would like to have it as much as possible be tax neutral to the residents. And there's a reason for that. And having gone door to door to a lot of people, I would say majority of the people in town, the biggest thing you heard back when, 4 years ago when I was running, is a lot of people who their kids have moved on, they're living in a smaller house and stuff like that, and pointing to their accommodations, saying, "Look, I'm paying $13,000 a year in taxes here. I don't want to pay any more in taxes." I'm going to take a leap of faith here and say, if you look at the school board referendum vote, and I'm going off of numbers I don't have in front of me, let's say it was 2,500 for and 750 against, or somewhere around there. I don't, close enough, let's say. I would say, if I had to guess, that 750 against were probably those same people that I have talked to saying, I don't want to pay more in taxes. My kids are gone, my grandkids are gone, whatever the case may be. And since I'm answering her question, again, that I met with between November and tonight, some at Jersey Java, some via text, emails, whatever the case may be, where I think that in pretty short order, we could incorporate a lot of the feedback from people into a redevelopment agreement that is not ideal, but is practical. And I think, what you'll see here with this is that, although I'm not a big fan of rentals, and I've said this in public forum too, quite honestly, I'm not a big fan of affordable housing. Someone who grew up in a nice house in Haddon Heights and then went to college, went to the military for a brief period of time. I moved back to my parents' house at Haddon Heights when I was looking for my next job, and realized it's a pretty expensive area to live. So I'm just going to go move somewhere else, do other things, take on additional responsibilities, climb the corporate ladder, make more money, then move back here. That's the American dream, right? So that's my own personal opinion on why I voted no against it. You know, why, when we cast the vote tonight, you know, why there will be a yes on it, not to, you know, reveal the ending here. I'll go into detail the reasons why. But I think it's a much better solution than what we were looking at even 3 months ago. And most importantly, it incorporates a lot of what residents and taxpayers provided us in that short period of time. And where I think it's not an ideal solution, but I think it's going to work. And I think it's going to work for the borough. And I think the residents will get a lot out of it. Most importantly, tax neutrality and meeting our affordable housing requirements, whether you like them or not. But the toothpaste is out of the tube on that.
Do you think 98 units is excessive? Simple, yes or no? I think it's too many.
I think it is pretty good, given the fact that we have a affordable housing obligation.
Well, then why aren't we fighting for those other 6 affordable housing units within the 98? Why'd we take it down from 18 to 12?
Part of that has to do with the financials of the developer. Now, so if you think about it this way, though, you know, is 98 reasonable? People tend to forget, and I assume you've lived here for a while. You know, you look at Bancroft now and you say, gee, it's a beautiful stretch of land with trees and open spaces and rabbits and, you know, probably even deer running through there. Yeah, 2 years ago, it wasn't that. It was a developed property. Back in when Bancroft was here, they had between 100 and 250 full-time workers there every day, and they had parking for at least 300 parking spots. So if you look at like 98 units, let's say you have between 1 to 2 people there that are living in each of those units.
Like 1 story spread about, you know, classroom units.
Not the point I'm trying to make though, but let's say that you have 98 units there, and let's say you have somewhere between 1 to 2 cars at each of those units. That puts you back at the same amount of traffic that you had back when Bancroft was there. So, you know.
And they were active during the day. Now you're gonna have 4-story apartment buildings with a lot of light pollution that'll affect the people on Kings Highway. And it just won't be the same aesthetic. I'm for affordable housing, let people come in. I actually wish you could give people affordable mortgages so they could have some equity in our town and contribute to the real estate taxes, but that's a whole other story. So my one last statement is since we, the taxpayers, fund that land, why were we not given the opportunity to weigh in on the development of the RFPs? Why were we not able to review all 8 RFPs? And why wasn't the town given the opportunity to vote on 1, 2, or 3 options for that unit?
Sounds like a great idea.
Yeah.
One of the things that we insisted on the negotiation with Woodmont was the updates. And although the quarterly in person, they will have monthly updates available to us, where we have talked about having some professionals in town review those minutes and give us their own report based off of that.
And so my last.
So, no, hold on. The majority of the land is going to be open space, deed restricted. But all it's going to be is a gravel parking lot, pathways, rubble. What are we going to do with it? I can tell you this guy is going to be pushing for charrettes, ideas. What do we want to do with it? Newsflash, that's going to cost money. And that's why I'm happy for the pilot, because that actually gives us the bank to develop the open space, because open space either develops the way we want it, or it's left to fester and it develops because nature will always take over. So one or the other is going to happen.
And is there any leeway that it will be less than 98, or is that
No.
a done deal?
No, unless the design, through the design process, changes that number down, not up, only down. But that's really the decision of the property owner at that point. Just like you wouldn't want somebody to tell you how to build your house, as long as you're building it within the confines of the agreed upon way. They're going to tell us that we've told them what they can't go over. They could decide to go under, but they won't go over. process. People felt what they could do for traffic. Can they make a left? Can they make a right? What do they have to do for water pressure? What do they have to do for building materials? HPC, what's it gonna look like? Have you ever been to HPC? I own a historic property. You don't do anything unless they tell you what it looks like. And our HPC, they're pretty tough. So we're gonna have a lot of say of what it looks like. Planning board's gonna have a lot of say. It's how it's built, where it's built, on the confines of their property. But at the end of the day, they're a property owner, and as long as they fulfill those requirements from HPC, from planning, they're gonna build no more than 98, could be less. But I can't sit here and say it will be. I wouldn't if I were the property owner, but they have a financial structure that says we can build 12 units. We're taking on all the risk. We're spending millions before we ever put a shovel in the ground. Whether that's for 10 units, 20 units, 40 units, 98 units. I was naive when I was running, thinking I'd never thought 10. No one ever thought 10. But a little naive to think that it could be 40, it could be 50, not knowing how much it's gonna cost. 2 historic digs they're gonna have to do? 2, that's what SHPO is gonna require, 2 digs. Because we all know what could be, right? So we're asking for 2. But when you asked Frank the question, I'm gonna answer it because you didn't ask me the question. Is 98 excessive? Yes. When you negotiate, the negotiation started in 2012 at 96. 90. 80 townhomes and 10 affordable units. That was, you can't negotiate against yourself once you set a number. Once you get out there,
Apples, because.
oh, it's apples for apples. It's building units. It's livable units.
Full units, so other
Right.
people in town can sell their houses.
Sure.
Guys like the Muse.
Well, I will tell you how I feel about rentals, because I was on the school board for 9 years. Rentals equal occupancy control for me. When you sign a lease and that lease is publicly available to the school district, they can verify who and how many are living in a unit. You want to talk about disgusting? What happened to the Commons when it was built as condominiums? How many people in town bought multiple units and then rented them out? Does a homeowners association, does a condominium association have that same level of control? Absolutely not. We'd be swimming in kids as a condo. I firmly believe that. As a rental, the school district would know exactly how many people are in those buildings. And there's a lot of law in the rental law about how many you can have. And if you don't believe it, you can file a complaint. You can't file a complaint with a condo owner. They're going to tell you to go to hell. When you go to the property manager and say your rental has too many people in there, whether they're kids or they're not kids, we have teeth. That's why I'm actually for rental units on this one. Plus, when you build less, I know what you're getting at. You build less, we have a 4th round. Jim, what is the voodoo economics of rental bonuses when it comes, you've studied this a lot, right? When you get a rental, you don't get 1 for 1, you get 1 plus for 1. So by building less units, we get more credits as long as they're rentals. This is all the game, the way it's set up, and we're trying to navigate it to a conclusion.
You make a good point that it's a game. I think
Oh, it is a game, and it's a sad game. Believe me, it's a game.
situation in the land agreement should be, straight borough procedures. So if a commissioner puts his house up for sale 9 months prior to anything happening, somebody, his peers would say, what are your plans? And somebody should be responsible for collecting that lease and reviewing it and seeing if there was 2 signatures on it. And asking him how he got such a great deal at $350 a month in Haddonfield.
And they do that once a year, right? So, I mean, I'm gonna have to declare, here's my address every year when I do my financial disclosure. But outside of that window,
But there is no one in the
yeah, no one reviews that.
Responsible to authenticate housing for commissioners.
Well, I'll save my comment for Commissioner Rich. I'm sitting in the chair now and I'm dealing with a lot of stuff.
So it's just an honor system is the way our commission works?
No, New Jersey state law, you have to qualify for office at the time that you run for office, and then once you're, I'm sorry, anybody hear me? New Jersey state law, you have to qualify as a resident at the time you run for office. Once you're qualified for office, you collect signatures. It's a 4-year term, so there's no mechanism following up on that. That's New Jersey state law. You know,
Thanks
and
for your time.
again, to your point, at the time of filing of the petition, which will be coming up shortly for some elected officials if they choose to run again, no one asked for a copy of your mortgage statement. No one asked for a copy of your lease.
But there was a lease, right? I think it was you who said you
There
saw
was
the
a
lease.
there's a
when I
lease.
was here.
But let me answer your question. There's a lease in
You said it to me.
discovery. Yeah, there's a lease in discovery, but I'm trying to answer your question about the residency requirement for elective office. Once qualified, elected for a 4-year term, there is no ongoing annual, semi-annual, quarterly residency requirement.
Right.
That's New Jersey state law. That's the legislature.
Okay,
I hope I answered your question.
thank you so much.
Sure. Any more from the public? This is your first time? Okay.
Didn't let me get up before.
Yes, right.
Well, no, I had to respect that, Ms. Custer was next. That's right.
That,
All right.
Margie Kanopki, Estill Avenue. So my first question is, why are there so many minutes that have never been approved? I mean, they go back 9 months.
Good question. That's why we're catching up. I'm the director of the administrative department. It's one of the things I ran on, and we're getting there. Couldn't vote on them tonight because we don't have a quorum for them.
Tonight, but I'm just asking why it's been 9 months and you haven't been able to vote on them. I mean, there should be a reason, which goes to what everybody has been saying, sort of. It's very hard for the residents of this town to believe you're lucky because you were just voted in, Dave. It's hard to go by what you say because you really haven't said anything. And when everybody in town knew that Mr. Roach did not live here, they're all sitting there saying the same. It's just incredible that you could have the responsibility that you have and not take it to heart. Because I am an old resident. I have grown up in this town. I've been here longer than a lot of you people, if you put your ages together, don't come to my age. And never have I seen commissioners that have totally lost the faith of the citizens of this town. And it's sad to me that I have lived here for all but 5 years of my life, brought my husband back from North Carolina to live in this wonderful town. And I cannot believe what the commissioners, the solicitor, it's disgraceful. My final question is, that side where the development is of Hopkins Lane, is that in the historic district?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I'll be selfish for a minute because it's a direct response to your question. A lot of people assume, a lot of people have their own opinion because I have over 4,000 people vote for me about why. All I can say is why I ran. And it's the same advice I give to anybody who is thinking about running. And when they ask, should I run? And the first question I ask them is, are you called or is there a cause? Because if you have a cause, you can fix the cause. If you're not called, you're going to get bored really fast. And my call is the public trust. In 2013, when I ran for the school board, the pillar of my campaign was restoring the public trust. We had just come off a failed referendum for the Bancroft property. All right. And I ran as a person. Open space went out the window. The town spoke. Open space isn't an option. It lost. However, for 9 years, worked on a land swap to protect Radnor because that's what was available for that at the time. That's a cause, but the call is the public trust. That's why focusing on communicating with the public. Why I'm not going to gavel you in 5 minutes. tonight, because this is too important for a 5-minute gavel. It's about making sure that the minutes are published. Why? I don't know, and I don't care. I just want them. And that's about restoring exactly what you said. Why do you trust? Why can't you trust if you can't verify? Well, we got to give you the verification so you trust us. It's not the other way around. That's what I spend most of my time doing right now. I'll get off my soapbox. Any more? You've had a turn? Yes? Oh, well, you guys work it out. PJ, sit down for a minute. There you go. Age before beauty, buddy.
Cedar Avenue.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name.
Fred Willis.
Cedar,
Live
thank
in
you.
Cedar Avenue. I've watched Bancroft for a while. I just have one comment after listening to everything here. I say, well, I believe the commissioners have made a mistake. We are right against the deadline. There's a lot of argument about what Roach did. There was a lot of argument about what Roach did, what he should have done, what he did. No, I'm just.
Yeah, better.
This is the first meeting I've attended on this subject, and I've listened to everything. And one thing I think that from the commissioner's standpoint, they should be aware of. And my impression is, well, I was against it. I've also listened to some good arguments tonight as to why this may be maybe not acceptable, but at least a tolerable solution. But coming in here, we are up against the deadline within literally hours now. And the impression I have is maybe I would flip my mind. I mean, and say, yes, you are absolutely correct, but there's no time. We are right against the deadline, and I feel that it is not good. I find it rather inexcusable to have let this go to the point where everybody is sitting here saying, we've got to, you're being forced to make a decision which maybe you don't like, maybe you do like, I don't know. But we're right against the deadline. And if you want to lose, to me, if you want to lose public trust, put people in the situation of feeling that the commissioners have to make a decision now. If this had come up, say, 2 months ago, and you said, okay, here's the choices we have. We think this is good, and some people are going to say no, some people are going to say yes, and the rest of us are going to try to listen and come up with an answer. But we don't have that option. Right now, it's either legally you approve this, or we've got a second bigger problem on our hands, which financially is even worse than the one we're looking at. And having let this go to this point, I'm going to say, was not a good one.
Frank, you like the deal?
I don't have to like the deal.
Right.
I mean,
It's not about like or not, right?
And, I mean, and if you heard about, we heard about like the legacy of Bancroft earlier. The legacy of Bancroft is 18 years of people treading water with. We've had lawsuits that prevented action on it. I mean, there's a lot that transpires. I mean, it's easy to take a look at like last 2 or 3 months or even last year as a snapshot in time. If you look at the legacy of this, it's been just a series of errors along the way. And now at some point, everything has a compelling event. That's just the way life works. You're not going to lose weight until you almost have a heart attack. And then you say, all right, well, now you're really going to lose weight or stop smoking, whatever the case may be. Like, that's how things work in life. Like, we have a compelling event. And, Chris Maines, my, fellow naval officer out there, I appreciate of all the people who have taken up arms against this, I appreciate the fact that you've been the most consistent throughout in terms of like your opposition to it, like you have, like you haven't like kind of twisted the wind on anything. But the fact of the matter is that as a commissioner, the easiest thing I can do to appease the people here and the people on the call, say, you know what? Right, Dave and I are voting no tonight. And we're going to be, kind of hoisted on your shoulders, and you go buy us a drink at Kings Row Brewery, and we're going to be heroes and all of that. What happens tomorrow? 300 units at that location. And guess what? It doesn't go before us at all. Like the wheels are in motion for that, and that's a builder's remedy lawsuit, and then it goes quickly to planning board, zoning board, rest. And then they take a look at Rite Aid and say, you know what? Let's put another 50 units over there. Oh, by the way, at 300 units, 60 are affordable housing. You know, the 50 units at Rite Aid, yep, 10 of those are gonna be affordable housing, you know, and then that's how all these things kind of like just keep adding up.
Yes, they're going to happen.
So
No, it's not a foregone
if the builders, I think you have to, Chris, respectfully, I think you have to read up on the builder's remedy lawsuit. And as a fellow naval officer, I'll put it in terms you understand. I understand if we don't take action on this, tomorrow, we lose the battle and we lose the war. 100%.
Made that clear in my comments, but you may have a second chance at this down the road. And just building 10 will give us the same protection against losing our immunity to builders remedy lawsuits as building 98 to get to 10. And that's what I've been saying all along. Just build the 10 and then we can figure out the rest. And it's doable. Just like Snowden was built, just like 8 properties were bought, just like 8 properties bought scattered throughout the town, you could hire a builder and just build 10. And I've been consistent about that. And that will give us the protection that tonight's vote will give us as well. We get the same protection if we like. One without dropping this on the town. That having been said, I get where you are with it. And I haven't publicly excoriated you or Dave. I think very careful. Know where this problem originated from. Everybody knows. But if you get another bite of this apple, I hope you think about it.
Right, and if it will come with time, I mean, but we can't hang a hat on that. And you know, and Jim Twitchell actually asked me the question a couple weeks ago at one of my coffees. You know, every Monday I'm at Jersey Java for 2 hours. Anybody can sit down and talk with me. He asked me, would you die on an 100% affordable hill? I said, absolutely not. I wouldn't. There's something about Snowden that seems magical, and I'm gonna go talk about a couple of magicals. It's kind of like your high school girlfriend, you know, you forget about all the bad. So Snowden was only affordable because of a grant from the Department of Community Affairs. They've never written one so small. And that was for 20 units. Meeting those folks in Atlantic City, they will never write one for 10 units. It's a waste of time for them. And without grants, without free money from anybody building it, we can't afford to build it. And that I am absolutely sure of. 10 was never promised because our open in Salvo was 90. Different types of housing, it really doesn't matter. Bancroft was a built property. I lived on Roberts Avenue, a neighbor of yours, for a long time. The traffic, or a long time ago, when Bancroft was humming along. And here's where I talk about the girlfriend comment. Bancroft was a terrible neighbor. They didn't pay a dime in taxes for the Lindens, for the hospital, for the day school, for Lulworth. Not a dime. And they beat all that stuff to hell and left us holding a bag. And we forget about all that because a bigger, badder guy came on the lot, Brian O'Neill. And when the town said no, he said yes. And Bancroft said sure, and took the money. And then we, instead of buying it from Bancroft, as a town, as a school district, the borough didn't even have a chance because Brian O'Neill came in and bought it. And then we had to buy him out for more money and all these deals and a right of first refusal to develop. 90. Over 8.2 acres, that number had never changed. You know where the 120 came from? That's how many beds he was going to build when Recovery Centers of America. That number didn't come out of thin air. It came out of his head. And then we bought into it. And in every agreement since then, the number's been 120. His RCA wasn't even gonna be over 8.2 acres. It was actually gonna be pretty tiny, but pretty tall. And we said no to that. And then we said no, and then lawsuits. You asked a question, who's to blame? The road to hell is paved in good intentions. Your lawsuit's a good intention. The previous lawsuit was a good intention. Neil and Jeff and Colleen trying to get townhomes over the crossing, over the finish line, were good intentions that didn't pan out. We had to pay them off. Bancroft was a terrible neighbor that generated an absolute crap ton of traffic. So in all due respect, catastrophic traffic is what we had, not where we're going. Memories are a lot longer than what's going on in the last 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. Traffic was an absolute nightmare. What do we have the ability to do? Bridges, buses can't cross the bridge. Why would a heavy truck be able to cross a bridge? A car, an SUV. I wish the damn Teslas can't cross the bridge because they're too heavy, but nobody was ever going to question that because it's a car. It's too heavy for the bridge. So keep buying Teslas and you're going to destroy the bridge. Anything could. Usage destroys the bridge eventually. It's destroyed before. In the 1970s, it collapsed. All that's coming from Kings Highway. If the planning board deems it, if the traffic study deems it, Woodmont can only make a left. They wouldn't be able to send any traffic to the right. It all goes out there. These are things that are now under our control. As Frank said, we vote no. A lot of people in this room, I'm not going to say even a lot of people in town, a lot of people in this room would love us. And then tomorrow, we better run. Neither of us will be residents of Haddonfield because you're going to want to chase us out on a rail because by the end of the month, as Mr. Jessup said, sorry, it's Matt. I don't use last name. All right. So Matt said, we have a hearing tomorrow, right? Or Wednesday. By the end of the month, Judge Schweitzer has already fast-tracked the process to have the first person to come up and shove it right up. And I'm not gonna let that happen. Frank's not gonna let that happen. You asked if I like it? No, not even a little. It's better than it was. It's the same as it's always been. The count hasn't changed, just the type and the height. And this is the best of all the ones that have been proposed since before Bancroft left. The majority of the land is going to be protected for passive recreational space or whatever the designation is. It's about the same number of units. It's nearly the same amount of revenue as it was going to be at 120 and 8.2 acres. So in that one, we're good. And Kim, you're right. It isn't just about Woodmont. It's about the redevelopment. It is about borough ownership of anything when it comes to property. The HAA is not the borough. It's its own 503C. Hopefully, they're better than we are at running affordable housing. I can tell you, we're terrible at it. We shouldn't be in the business. And we're not going to be in the business when we vote. We shouldn't be in the business of owning historic homes either. And we're getting out of that business as fast as we can too. Because other people can do it better. Private industry can do it better. People who have a vested interest can do it better. 10 was never going to happen because it just isn't affordable. And then you say, okay, if it's not 10, what is the affordable number? I thought it was 40, and then 50, and then 60. And then time ran out. We danced with the devil that we had. We came up what we have. It's over. I mean, there's no more time. There's no more talk. It's been 20 years. And I hope, and as you heard, one of the biggest sticking points was, all the town does is sue. We're never going to actually build this, and it's just going to incur cost after cost after cost. So when we're sitting here negotiating price, and we're negotiating pilot, and we're negotiating acreage, why were we negotiating to the last minute? Because we're also negotiating liability, and we're negotiating realistic expectations that any builder's gonna have, whether they build 10, they build 40, or they build 60, they want a partner. And we got them to only agree to 75. And then we're on the hook for the rest. I don't know, I'm throwing up my hands because there's nothing else left. It's not that we can't do better. There's no time, and there's nothing. There's this. And it's as good as it's ever been since Bancroft, a terrible neighbor who left us holding the bag, sold this property to Brian O'Neill. This is the best it's ever been since that day. And it still sucks. Any more public? PJ.
Thank you, David. My name is PJ Maloney. I live at 210 Homestead Avenue here in Haddonfield. I've spoken with any number of people in this room about this. I knew what was going down long before any of this happened, but I'm still going to state my objections. There's no reason why we should be coming here tonight and not even know what the deal is until after you've come out of private session. We didn't see any documents. We didn't even see a design plan. It was shown up on the board. We don't have the document itself, even the price tag. We didn't know about it until you just stated it at the very last minute. Now, David, when you came into this place before you were commissioner, only in the fall, you objected that there were meetings being held, that documents weren't being provided until the last minute. And those meetings were set aside and new meetings were held because the documents weren't provided to the public in a timely fashion. So I'm objecting to the fact that we weren't given adequate notice of what was going down here in terms of the details so that we could object and state our opinions on this. My second objection is to some of the things that our esteemed council has been saying here tonight. Legally correct. No, there has not been a finding in a court of law that Kevin Roche didn't live here at the time that he voted for this travesty. But Sal, really, you've said before, oh, well, this is a decision for the men in the black robes. Or I don't know where Kevin lives because he is a private citizen. And now tonight, twice you have objected to and said, well, there hasn't been a finding in a court of law. So what? There was a deposition. Kevin Roche was under oath. The deposition was in your office, and he admitted that he never signed a lease, that he moved out, that he had sold his house back in April, and that he never spent a night here in Haddonfield in the place he was supposedly renting. You know all these things. So yes, you can go and deal with the legalisms and say these things as if there's some patina of truth to it, but the fact of the matter is that Kevin didn't live here when he voted, and you know it, and we all know it. So stop bothering us with that kind of patinas. You were as responsible as anybody for getting us into this mess in the first place. You gave $2,500 to Colleen when she was running years ago. You gave $485 to Kevin. You got these people elected, and now we're dealing with this mess. So I can't wait until you are no longer council here because you've caused a lot of these problems. And frankly, I don't think you should be representing the borough, and I wish you would go away.
You're elected officials. He's a borough staff member. Would you talk to Deanna that way? Would you talk to Sharon that way? Would you talk to Joanna that way?
If they went and made statements that were clearly designed to mislead, absolutely I would.
Carol Stoner on Avondale Avenue. 12 affordable units. It started out with 12 affordable units and 108 luxury units. And now we still have 12 affordable units out of 98 on 6 acres of land on the only parcel of open space that Haddonfield owns. Where are the rest of the affordable units going to go, commissioners? If this group of commissioners who actually showed up, unlike our mayor who decided to not show up, shame on her, are truly committed to filling the coffers of affordable housing, why would you pick Woodmont? Their original was only 12 from the start out of 120. And you're worried tonight about voting no to ward off a builder's remedy when you chose a proposal of 12 affordable units from the start. Whose fault is that? With a lawsuit from a commissioner who didn't tell the truth? I am imploring you to vote no tonight to 98 units and build only 10 because we don't trust you. Go back to the drawing board for less density, age-restricted, and affordable housing to fill our coffers. This decision will destroy our town and our valued schools forever. Forever. And the biggest problem is you don't care.
No to this proposal is yes to a builder's remedy lawsuit in 24 hours.
We have time. Why are you fighting? We have a lawyer. I'm married to a lawyer. We fight. You fight for the things that you need and you want for your town. We fight. We don't just roll over and pick something with 12 affordable units from the start. If you want affordable units, you should fight for it. You're not fighting for affordable units. That's a joke. You want to have something better from the start. Instead, you're giving it away to Woodmont. I don't know why. What's the interest there? Don't know. Do something else. You have time. We have time. Do it.
There's no time.
I'm sure there's time.
I'm sure there's not.
Figure it out.
And I'm sure there's not.
Okay, and there was time. That was my point. There was time. There were months. Early November.
With a judge forcing the action.
All I'm saying is there were 90 days. 90 days. And I know there were inquiries from architects and builders in this town ready to step up, who did not believe that the borough would turn around fast enough to let them even get in and make a recommendation. There was 90 days. There wasn't a night. There was 90 days since Kevin Roach admitted to Sal in his office that he lied under oath.
That is not the time. That,
I'll take this because you weren't the commissioner at the time, with all the respect. So in November, when I voted, so when I did not vote, basically it was allowed for Dave Seidel, someone who was recently elected, but not yet appointed, to become a commissioner, because he had a view and people voted for him and said, like, we trust in terms of like what you're going to do is for the best of the community. And having run for office in the past, you realize that where you make a lot of commitments or you have a vision of what you can do until you get in office and realize what you're limited with what you can do and time that you're given. In this case, this has been, I think people have a warped view of the fair share housing attorneys and like if they're benevolent people that are willing to work with us. Their view of Haddonfield is time's up. You've wasted enough time. You're delaying, and basically their action or their decision and their guidance was you have to take action on Woodmont. When I delayed this, the first thing I said, and I told the affordable housing folks that were sitting here, saying, I'm going to have focus groups. I'm going to put it out to people. I'm going to get feedback from people, which I did. You were in attendance. Several other people here were in attendance. Got feedback from people, and we incorporated that feedback. I'm looking right at the Pareto that was developed here, where the greatest number of occurrences is 50 to 75% of open space outside of the affordable housing. With our numbers, we're at 54%. we've hit a mark there. You know, the biggest on the Pareto, the concern was overpopulation of schools. That's been settled with the referendum vote by the school system. You know, incorporating there is that the hypothetical that we may have an increase in schools because of like the rental units. I personally don't think it's true. And if you look at all the studies in New Jersey and the ones we've done in Haddonfield and Haddon Township, for example, you have a paucity of age, you know, school age children that live in those communities. So I don't think you're going to see an uptick. Maybe you will, but that's already provided for by the referendum vote that just went through. So the concern there was, you know, high density of units. So we got up from 120 down to 98, which is about as good as we can do. And again, that puts you about the same number of cars as when Bancroft was operational every day. So you won't see a lot of wear and tear. And oh, by the way, you're not going to see buses going in and out there like you used to when Bancroft was there. Hold on, and one thing, you know, 15% of respondents said they were fine with either as proposed for rents or mini Woodmonts. So 85% would rather have it, you know, for ownership, but 15%, a representative sample of the community said they were fine with rental units. So, you know, you have something there. And, you know, you hear on social media and you hear here how people say the majority of people want this. You know, this is there was once a time with Bancroft was topic of conversation. This was standing room only and people lining the halls, and you had to have it at, you know, the auditorium and stuff like that. That week that I summarized all the stuff at Jersey Java, sent out to social media. I have 1,200 followers on Facebook and Instagram. And I took that, put the Pareto out there and said, I want feedback in any way, shape, or form. I got phone calls, texts, emails, people responding on social media and all that. 80 respondents. It doesn't include the emojis of smiley faces and thumbs, whatever. Let's say it's 160. You still have 10,000 residents or 10,600 people registered to vote in our community, more residents because of kids and stuff like that. So not a great response rate. And just look at the number that we have here tonight and online here. We're talking about, and one's my wife that's probably multitasking. It's, you're not, I don't know, if I had to categorize the people who, the vast majority of the people just want something done. And these are people I've known that are lifers from Haddonfield, people who live my street, people I know well, I play golf with, I give them updates and they say, that seems pretty reasonable. The mayor's breakfast 2 days ago on Saturday, I was talking to someone about this. And when we laid out, this is what it looks like, a former commissioner said, that seems pretty reasonable, and moved on. So I think that's where we are right here. You know, I don't think anyone is in love with this. That's kind of the way like a negotiation and a compromise works. At the end, no one truly likes what they got, but they're willing to live with it and, you know, kind of go about their business. You're at the point where, you know, respectfully, we are out of time. You know, we can try and fight it, but it will, you know, no one's going to remember you, Dave. No one's going to remember you, Carol. Like, you know, that who they're going to remember is the people who let, you know, 500 units get built in town. And where were they? You know, were they asleep at the switch and all that? I'm not asleep at the switch. I've been awake at the switch for like several years here. And now we're at the point where like a decision has to be made, a tough decision, you know, and that's why you elect people to make tough decisions.
No, there's not a lot of, there can't be back and forth. I mean, we'll be here literally all night. No, Carol? I know, but we've just answered your question for 10 minutes.
And so that's fair. I would say that, you know, anyone who makes additional comment, I think it's fair that I did let 1 or 2 residents. So I think it's fair to maybe, you know, allow people 2 minutes at the lectern to.
Sure, but if you're going to speak, it's not another turn. It just can't be. We will be here. No, it can't be, Walter. And please stop shouting from the audience. Anyone else from the public, please? No, you've also spoken. You've not. Please.
My voice carries.
No, but it's not carried to Zoom. Come on up. There's a procedure, and I'm going to cover to what Frank had just said. We are here to take your feedback, not to argue, because we were elected, and I stood on this in my campaign, which was not very long ago. The decision is ours. The decision to collect input is ours as well, and the decision to explain ourselves is ours as well. I think we've hit all three tonight. Please.
David Cornbrew, 311 Lincoln.
What's your last name, sir? I'm sorry.
311 Lincoln.
No, your last name.
Cornbrew, Korngruen.
Thank you.
Unfortunately, I've spent a lot of time at the archives of the Historical Association. And if there may be some people here, who remember what happened when Winter Ford vacated its space on Haddon Avenue. It was portrayed by some of the papers as the rape of Haddonfield. And what happened was, I don't think there was enough community pressure. Haddonfield Commons is brutalist architecture, it's best. And there wasn't enough pressure on the town folk, on the commissioners to get something better done. The other point I wanted to make is, prior to my moving to Haddonfield 5 years ago, I lived in Cranford, which is under major redevelopment stress. And Harts Mountain owned a property at 3 acres, and they wanted to put 925 units in there. And through pressure, through the voters in the town, they were able to knock it down to 250, and they made compromises. Space before had been used for warehousing, and Harts Mountain wanted it done, so they got it. Nobody's happy really, but it had to be done. Town had kicked the can down the road too long, and it faced the same problem, builder's remedy. And I know from experience of being involved in that it can be accomplished. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Jim, you already spoke. I'm sorry, it's one bite at the apple. It doesn't matter.
David Hunter, 260 Windsor Avenue. A comment was made a few minutes ago that if you vote yes tonight, you will destroy Haddonfield. The reality is, if you vote no tonight, you'll destroy Haddonfield. And as you indicated, both of you would leave town tomorrow. Because if you don't, you'll be chased out of town. It's important for us to understand the situation that the commissioners are in, and to imagine that we are in court ourselves, and that we've been accused of a crime and convicted of a crime. And imagine that the judge gives us a choice and says, either you can pay a fine of $10,000 today, or you can go to jail tomorrow for 10 years. What would you choose? And they're your only choices, no others. Pay $10,000 today or go to jail tomorrow for 10 years. I know what I would choose. I think I know what these two commissioners would choose, and I'm pretty sure I know what all of you would choose. You'd pay that fine, as much as you might not want to pay it, as much as you might disagree, as much as you might believe that you're innocent. You would pay that fine because the alternative is so horrendous. And the alternative to voting yes tonight is so horrendous, a builder's remedy lawsuit. And if you don't believe me and you don't believe what has just been said by the commissioners, go to the website of the town of Randolph, New Jersey, where it says, it is hard to find a single example in New Jersey where a municipality prevailed in a builder's remedy lawsuit. It's already been said tonight at the podium. If the commissioners vote no tonight, within days, Fair Share Housing will ask the judge to permit builders remedy lawsuit, which will mean there could be hundreds of units on Bancroft. There could be hundreds of units on Archer and Griner. There could be scores of units on Rite Aid, Wells Fargo Bank, and elsewhere. That is what is horrendous. That's what would destroy Haddonfield. A no vote tonight will destroy Haddonfield for generations. A yes vote is the only responsible vote. Pay $10,000 today. Don't go to jail tomorrow.
All right, there you go.
I want to congratulate the two commissioners tonight that are sitting here fulfilling their oath of office. You've sat here for 2.5 hours and answered every hard question that this audience has brought at you. And I liked Frank's gesture across the big crevasse that sits in front of me. It's so disappointing that tonight, one of the most significant nights in the history of this town, a vote that's going to have consequences well beyond the lives of any of us here in this room, that the mayor decided that whatever else she had going on in her life was more important than being here tonight. And that's a real shame. I'm also disappointed that the tainted vote to designate Woodmont as the conditional redeveloper is going to be pushed even further into the hole by the vote here tonight that designates Woodmont Properties as the redeveloper. When the issue started being brought to the commission's attention about the potential residency issues of Commissioner Roach, governing body elected not to take any action to those points. And in fact, rather than directing the clerk to conduct an investigation, rather than conducting the solicitor to conduct an investigation, rather than appointing a special counsel, the message from the dais was, sue us. And so two poor residents had to reach into their own pockets. They circulated how much it's cost. They spent over $27,000 to date to sue the borough to reveal the truth. And the truth is that after Commissioner Roach sold his property, right here on the tax form, New Jersey asks you, what did you just do? Sold my principal residence. Where are you going? Washington, D.C. That's not so that the state of New Jersey can send you some saltwater taffy as your parting gift. It's so the tax man knows where to find you to tax that event. And what did Commissioner Roach do after that? He signed a lease that the landlord didn't sign. He handed over a rent check that the landlord didn't cash. He didn't get fire inspection, shiver occupancy that I have to do every time one of my rental places turns over. He never moved a single personal item into that house, and he never spent a night there. And he said, that's it, that's my residence. And it's not, because under those circumstances, I'm running for the mayor of Avalon tomorrow. You just can't do it that way. And so to ignore that reality, to not give these gentlemen their money back, to not acknowledge that Commissioner Roach was not a commissioner, it just makes a bad situation worse. I understand what you're going to do here tonight because we don't need Trump Tower on Kings Highway, but we are just compounding one lousy decision on top of another lousy decision on top of another lousy decision. And final thought, please name it Haddonfield United Estates. Thank you.
Anyone else in the public in person? Okay, we're gonna move to Zoom.
They have to raise their hand.
You can raise your hand or press *6 if you're on a phone, to unmute. At work, I have a 7-second rule, but I'm gonna advance that to 14 seconds because not everybody's a Zoom user, by nature or by trade.
Do we write, in the note section there that?
Yeah, you raise your hand using the gesture or react, the little heart thing has in the hand raise inside it. Yeah, and sorry for the sound of it, a lot of passionate people, shuffling papers, and hitting mute, because these are pretty sensitive microphones that I hope we fix very soon. By the end of the month, I hope.
Raise their hand, no.
John Simon.
April 10th is the install date. Thank you, Chair.
Top left.
John Simonson, you can unmute and we'll start a clock in person.
Okay, finally. No, the only thing that I want to say is that certainly understand the predicament that we're in, but you know, this all goes back. I mean, I'm not going through the whole history since, you know, the last 20 years, but the most recent situation with Woodmont. What is most egregious to me is the fact that when most people didn't even know there were 9 proposals, and it was not even published to any, you know, very visible extent. And next thing we know, there's a vote, and none of this was shared. I mean, I happen to have found the proposals on New Jersey Penn, and some there seem very viable. But I mean, what all I'm trying to say, and I'm not going to belabor it, is why in the hell was there not more transparency at that point, knowing the sensitivity of this issue? I mean, how could a group of commissioners not share this information? Whether it would come up for a public vote is one thing. To not share it at all and just all of a sudden an announcement that Woodmont has been approved or selected, I should say. So I just hope this doesn't ever happen again. And it sounds like with Mr. Seidel that there's going to be far more transparency, and maybe we'll bring some respectability back to the commissioners. Thank you.
Thanks, John. You can lower your hand. Okay. Anyone else? Feel like an auctioneer. Going once, going twice. I have a gavel. Motion to close public comment on agenda items.
Second.
Voting on that motion, Commissioner Troy,
In favor.
Commissioner Seidel.
In favor. All right, where are my glasses? All right, so now we're moving to resolutions under the consent agenda. They've been placed in the consent agenda and will be enacted in one motion. There will be no separate discussion on these items unless requested by Frank or myself. Authorizations to pay vouchers, authorizations to issue checks and the overpayment of taxes, authorization to approve general event permits, authorization to approve appointments in the fire department, authorization to sign agreement for Governor's Council on alcoholism and drug abuse for the fiscal year of 2026, authorization to sign professional service agreement for Affordable Housing Council services. And as a reminder, we're continuing on with our current Affordable Housing Council. Authorization to approve change order number 2, 2024 road improvement program. Authorization to transfer deeds of scattered affordable housing property from the Borough of Haddonfield to the Haddonfield Housing Agency for the management of these sites. Authorization for appointments of the Zoning Board of Adjustment. Authorization of appointment of planning board professionals. Authorization to submit grant application to the NJD Department of Community Affairs for playground equipment at Mountwell.
No, this is
No.
actually for Brad.
Oh, at Radnor, to build a playground down there. Remember, there used to be one. So I make a motion to approve resolutions 016 to 026.
Second,
Voting on that motion, Commissioner Troy,
in favor.
Commissioner Seidel.
In favor. Now we'll go to resolutions and we'll be doing these individually. So first, resolution 27, authorization to advertise for sealed bids, grass cutting on public property. I'll make a motion to approve resolution 27.
Second,
Voting on that motion, Commissioner Troy,
in favor.
Commissioner Seidel.
In favor. Authorization 28 to advertise for sealed bids, cleaning of public bathrooms. All the feedback has been, we've been doing a pretty good job. We want to keep doing that. So I'll make a motion to approve resolution 28, cleaning of public bathrooms.
Second,
Voting on that motion, Commissioner Troy,
in favor.
Commissioner Seidel.
In favor. Resolution 29, sealed bids for solid waste and recycled material collection services. This is tremendous savings over the long run. It was covered in our work session. I'll make a motion.
Second,
Voting on that motion, Commissioner Troy,
in favor.
Commissioner Seidel.
In favor. Authorization 30, authorization to advertise request for proposal, affordable housing administrative agent and financial advisor. I make a motion.
Second,
Voting on that motion, Commissioner Seidel, sorry. Been a
Troy.
long night. Commissioner Troy,
in favor.
Commissioner Seidel.
In favor. There will be comment on this one. Resolution 31, authorization to approve a redevelopment agreement and purchase and sale agreement for a portion of the property commonly known as Block 14, Lot 2, the Bancroft parcel, on the official tax map of the borough. I make a motion.
Second,
Would you like to discuss?
I think we've discussed my reasons for it.
And
Would you like to make a comment?
I have it well.
I second.
Voting on that motion, Commissioner Troy,
In favor.
Commissioner Seidel.
In favor. Now I'll make a motion to move the opening for public comment on all other items, including items that were on the agenda or anything you want to talk about. Make a motion?
Second,
Voting on that motion, Commissioner Troy,
in favor.
Commissioner Seidel.
In favor. Public comment is open. A fresh 5 minutes for anyone who would like to bring up anything.
Kim Custer, 48 Norman Avenue, Delran. Status on Walworth Hall and Boxwood.
Sure.
My two favorite properties.
No, well, Boxwood did they actually meet with, no, they didn't. So, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So they were, Boxwood was scheduled to come before HPC thank you. Boxwood was scheduled to come before HPC on Wednesday evening. HPC this year changed from the third Wednesdays to the second Wednesdays. So they scheduled to come before Wednesday. They were on the agenda, but we received an email from their counsel earlier today. I was in trial, but Sharon advised me of it. They've asked for an extension because there's additional items that are required and they're not ready to come forward. That's with regard to Boxwood.
Okay, great. Know about Walworth.
I'll defer to Mr. Jessup, who's negotiating that one.
Simply, so on Hallmark, we are in the process of.
Matt, sorry. You got to come to one of the mics.
Here.
Or that one. Thank you.
So on Lulworth, we are in the process of negotiating a purchase and sale agreement with a potential purchaser of the property. If that goes through, the property would be restored and used as a single family residence. We're obviously not at that point yet, otherwise it would be before the commissioners, but that's currently where we are.
How many proposals did you guys receive?
4 re-qualified. We threw one right out. It was terrible.
Okay, so we're back to kind of where it started with proposals for Bancroft, and we didn't know, the public didn't know about it. You guys made a decision, and now we're not gonna know, we're just gonna know what you guys decided on who. Is that how we're gonna go with this again?
There's a world of difference between 4 proposals for a house that must be restored as a house and a redevelopment agreement for open land that could have a myriad of possibilities with a lot of public input. Somebody fixing up Lulworth to live in a single family house, returning that property to the tax rolls is not something that is up for debate. This is in California. It's not Proposition 11. It's 3 individuals that you voted for to say which house proposal is going to give us the most money and will be tax revenue. There's not a lot to discuss. It's choosing one.
Okay, because
We chose the one with the highest purchase price, with the most sincere and financial backing to re-put that house back the way it was. And it will go on the tax rolls for the first time ever.
That's great. But, you know, we had also had heard that it was going to be condos, it could have been affordable housing, it could have been a bed and breakfast. So there could have been other proposals for other uses. We didn't, you know, I'm glad it's going to be a house. I'm glad that they're going to restore what they need to do. That will be very exciting.
So do I.
It's going to be a big win in the historic. And one thing I wanted to add, was in Delran, we had a very huge rental development put in. It had affordable housing requirements, which most of them do have. We received a lot of students coming from there, busloads. And when the school just wanted to find out who lived there, the lease department would not give any of that information out to the school district. So just letting you know, there could be, you know, other things could happen. What should happen, what does happen are 2 different things. And another note, when Bancroft was there, we actually, because I lived there for a very long time, Saturdays and Sundays, quiet. The school only ran Monday through Friday. So whatever traffic and cars and buses on the weekends, it was quiet and it was peaceful. So just kind of set the record straight on what happened at Bancroft. It was quiet on weekends.
And now there will be a field and a gymnasium, an extra field and gymnasium. And when Bancroft was there, there wasn't turf, so which allowed those fields to be used from sunup to past sundown. So it's not the same world.
Oh, no, it's very different. And I just wanted to say, thank you for saving the stone building. That is a very important structure. So thank you for that.
Well, if you have ideas on what to do, I mean, that will be one of the things coming up. We will own it and we will have land that we got to do something with. Or let it all go back to nature, which I don't think anybody wants that. It takes way too long.
And just a reminder, this has obviously been a very passionate.
You're good.
Thank you. And I know people say things. I know the commissioners get heated, we get heated, and it's, you know, I can understand that, but I think we all need to take a deep breath. Dave, I really was just trying, you gave someone who stood up here for 20 minutes a comment. I just wanted to add an extra comment. We just have to be careful how we talk to each other.
Sure.
It's hard. And I stood here when they had to get the code of conduct, because we fought the dog wars here, where people yelled and screamed at each other. We actually had to have a code of conduct, but now I think we all need it. You guys sitting up there and us back here. As we move forward with this, I hope that the planning board and the HPC, it would be really nice for you guys to really let us know when Bancroft is going to be up on those meetings. Whether you could have a special announcement, just to keep us all on the same page. So I am hopeful that once it goes through our boards, I think that we really will have a chance to have a talk about density and what it really is going to look like, which is all very important to us.
Sure, and that's a good idea. Thank you. To make one comment about letting 20 minutes, that was mostly 20 minutes of us speaking. So from a perception standpoint, yes, Dana had a lot of time to stand up here. She stood up here most of the time listening to us. We didn't want to cheat her from her 5 minutes, but that 20 minutes, you can go back to the tape, was most of us speaking in response. She happened to stay standing. Carol sat back down. We spoke and answered her for 15 minutes. Everyone gets a bite at the apple. As you said, there's a code of conduct for this, and there's a second comment period. As you can tell, Frank isn't kicking me under the table saying, stop. Stop him in 5 minutes and grabbing that gavel and kicking me. Sal's not doing it either. You know, different people have different styles. Thank you. Susan. Annie, Susan's next, but you can make your way up.
Unfortunately, Colleen is not here because this is mostly addressed to her.
Could you use the mic a little bit better?
Yes, I got here, I thought it was 7:30 last week. I'm an old lady regardless of what Walter says, and so I didn't get to Coles Mill Road. But I would like to talk about it because I was very surprised when I arrived that you were talking about Coles Mill Road, because I've lived here for 31 years on Coles Mill Road, and I didn't know that the borough was doing anything on this county road. I realize this is county planning. Colleen said you would talk to some residents. Well, you didn't talk to me and you didn't talk to any of the people I know on the street. But I do want to give you some history about this. And in fact, the police department probably has some of this history. I've lived on Coles Mill Road for 31 years. My husband, Gerald Schwaber, who is deceased, was actually asked to be part of TAPS by Ted Stoisi in 2005 as a bicycle advocate. So we started going to TAPS.
When he was the chief?
Yes, when he was the chief. We started going to TAPS meetings, and we realized that they were doing this under Jack Tarditi. It was not an official committee, but Jack Tarditi ran it. Some of you may have heard of him. We went and we organized all our residents on Coles Mill Road around several issues. And I actually found our goals. We had a PowerPoint. Our goals in 2005 were access to Pennypack Park, safe pedestrian route to Grove Street, safe pedestrian route to Haddonfield, and to reduce the traffic. Now, we had concerns about the volume of traffic and the speed of traffic, and there were 2 traffic studies done, which
Susan.
you guys should have.
Oh, Dr. Jason or us.
There were 2 traffic studies done, which you guys should have. The traffic studies showed the following. One, in a 1 week, there were 25,000 cars. That's a lot of cars per street in 1 week. We didn't have high speed between 8 and 10 and 4 and 6 because you can't speed when you have back-to-back traffic. We did have high speeds though at other hours, particularly like between 2 and 2:33. That's when kids are coming home from Tatum. And we had speeds of up to 35 miles per hour. Again, you can check these reports. I'd like you to do another traffic study on the street. I know it is a county road. However, we also, besides the things we wanted here, one of the concerns was there was no way for people on the east side of Coles Mill Road, for children on Meadow Lane, children on Village Court, and children with 4 houses. There's no way for them to cross Coles Mill Road safely, going to school and coming back. And in fact, you guys have printed out the Tatum Elementary School safe routes to school. And there's this little corner here. The little corner is where there are no sidewalks, and there's no safe route to Tatum. There's also no, for kids, no safe route to Haddonfield. So we were very concerned about that at the time. So the next point was that we asked for all sorts of things. We asked for a light. Sounds familiar? In 2007, we asked for a light. We asked for, could you push a button so you could cross at Coles and Grove? We asked for no left turns between 4 and 6 from Coles. We asked for no right turns between 4 and 6. We got nothing. We asked for speed bumps. That's the one thing we got. We got 3 speed bumps in Coles Mill. One's in front of my house. I don't know how Jack Tarditi got it because, we didn't go to the county, but somehow somebody appeared, put speed bumps in. They're worn down now because we've had them since 2007. Maybe you know about who paid for them, how they got done. I didn't pay for mine, but I was very happy to have it in front. So I guess what we would like right now is for you to relook at this road, or somebody relook at this road. Look at the speeding. Look at the fact that kids have to cross Meadow Lane from Meadow Lane. We wanted, another thing we asked for was, couldn't we just have a white strips so kids, there'd be a safe place for kids to cross either Village Court or Meadow Lane? Nothing, none of it happened. Anyway, I was gonna say to the mayor, you are in charge of traffic safety, right? Public safety, kids crossing the street to go to Tatum or coming home from school. Isn't that public safety? Is somebody responsible for that here? Maybe not. Anyway, I hope you'll do something about that.
Doctor, I can speak.
Please.
The county has some traffic studies, that I guess they might be available. If not, I can try to find one. But they applied for a grant and they did get money, to put in sidewalks and to add crosswalks.
Right. Can I tell you something? I have a little bit of time. Let me tell you about the sidewalk. So about August of 2022, I got a letter from Kevin Bessica, who was the engineer at that time. She says, do we have permission to go on your property to fix your sidewalks? I sent her back a letter. It was blistering. I said, ma'am, you haven't been on my street. There are no sidewalks from Carriage House Lane to Grove Street on either side. So how are you gonna fix my sidewalks if I don't have one? So we don't know what their plan.
Yeah, I can't speak to what the county did or did not do. I know that their plan is to put in sidewalks.
And do you know even which side of the street they're putting sidewalks?
I believe it's on the park side. I'm not sure, so I don't, but I know they're putting in crosswalks as well.
So this is something
Up
where
near
I admit
Meadow.
I could go to the county, but it would be nice if I could hear this. If the people on my street could hear this from the people in our town, what the county is doing, rather than me having to go to a county meeting and ask them, what are your plans?
Sometimes they can't tell us either.
Yeah.
Or can you ask? Is it possible?
Sure. Yeah, and this is gonna answer your question without answering your question, and I'm gonna sound like a politician really quick. This is what happens when you muddle, and this is a personal opinion, and this isn't really, it's just different people have different ways to do business and run meetings, and it's partly a byproduct of former commissions that did 2 work sessions and 2 action meetings a month, that you get in the routine of being able to discuss things without taking action on them, because lots of people have great ideas. You came with a great idea in the last work session to talk about directing our public officials and our school districts to ask for warrants, if there's undocumented workers. We have to have time to actually have that discussion. So we can direct Sharon to put it on our March work session and have a discussion about it. The Coles Mill topic wasn't ours. It was the county coming and saying, we would like to do this. And we have to talk about it at a work session. Does that mean we take action on it? No. Does that mean we take it seriously? I did, Frank did, Colleen did. As a port of information, knowing that there wasn't a decision that's gonna be made 2 weeks later, that we gave them feedback. Come back and give us more alternatives than just a street light. Give us a crosswalk light. What's your bigger plan for this? Is it going to be connected to a walking trail? Does it have anything to do with these grants for sidewalks or crosswalks further up? It could be lots of things,
Does it
but
have anything to do with what happened between 2007 and 2012?
I have no idea.
When we got speed.
No, but hold on a second. I have no idea. You just brought this to my attention. Frank, did you know this until tonight?
I did not, no.
Yeah, right, sure. So this is what we do in the next work session. When this comes up, which will not be March, because the county, we could say, hey, when you come back, make sure you cover the last 25 or 30 years of activity on Coles Mill so that we can understand what your longer term goal is. This is how it's supposed to work.
Sharon, you know about the speed bumps, right, Sharon?
Yes.
I don't even know who paid for them. I just know that the county did.
Yeah, the county and the county has their own set of rules on their own roads.
Got the county.
Not Jack at the time.
Jack was in taps.
Yes, but it was not Jack who.
But nobody ever went to the county. Somebody from the town must have gone to the county because nobody from our.
Maybe.
Yes.
Maybe.
Yes, there were
Yes.
people in the government that talked
Yes.
to the county,
Yes.
and I believe they were rumble strips, weren't they?
Yes, yeah, they're.
The
rumble strips.
Oh, rumble strips, all right. All right, so thank you, and thanks for bringing it to our attention. We still have in public before we get to Zoom, so we have someone else at the lectern.
Chris Main, 7 Roberts Avenue. I would like to just present an opposing historical perspective to something you said earlier, Dave.
Sure.
About, you said open space lost in the Bancroft referendum back in 2012, correct?
I did, it did.
Oh, well, okay. That's not how I believe it happened. What lost was, back then it wasn't a binary choice between open space and the school board buying it. It was a binary choice between the school board buying it, or remaining in the hands of Bancroft and possibly something else happening there, which could have been open space. So.
But it wasn't. So we can go back and forth on this one. Yeah, sure.
That referendum was voted for by every district except the houses around Radnor. It was the only one, and that one alone tanked the referendum. And the reason that happened was because the president of the school board at the time, Weinstein, famously said, if we need more money to make this happen, we could just develop Radnor. So it was actually open space that tanked it, because people wanted open space. They wanted to preserve Radnor, and that, understandably, if I lived over there, and even not living over there, I can see where they're coming from. That one statement, when those words left his mouth, that referendum was doomed.
I'm not disagreeing with anything you said.
Okay, so it was because they wanted to preserve open space at Radnor that it doomed it. So it was actually the opposite. Open space won for the other side because they were afraid of losing the open space at Radnor to fund the Bancroft purchase. That's what happened. Additionally, the school board lost to a lesser extent because they wanted to buy the property without specifics. It was a purchase price for the property. And then there was a general plan. It was, there, as I recall, a lot of pie in the sky, not as I recall, it was a lot of sort of pie in the sky, nebulous stuff that they were going to do, visions of this and that, but it wasn't rife with specifics. And a lot of people were concerned about what the Board of Ed might do on the property. But overwhelmingly, and you can see it in the numbers, where 9 out of 10 districts, or how many there are, voted yes to the referendum. But the one that voted no, the one near Radnor, was so overwhelmingly against it because of those words that Weinstein said that the referendum went down. So it was open space that they wanted at Radnor that killed the referendum.
Sure.
That's my historical perspective on it.
Yes.
On another topic, I brought this up at the school board a couple months ago when you were on the board.
Well, then it was more than a couple of months ago.
Well, all right, it was a while ago, but the traffic light, since we just talked about traffic safety, somebody is going to get hurt or killed at the intersection of Sylvan Lake and Kings Highway. That intersection, the police properly in the morning when they're doing traffic safety, put the cones out. And that prevents people from going around a car that's turning left, coming from town onto Sylvan Lake. That's helpful. The cones are good. And that's in daytime. At nighttime, you can't see anything. I don't know what kind of light is above. I don't know if it's some solar energy saving thing that is, it's not bright enough. It's just not bright enough. I don't know how else to describe it. It's not bright enough. And cars can't see you. You can't see cars. So whether there's a car stopped there and somebody drives around them and doesn't see somebody, or whether there's just cars going back and forth and somebody walking across, you can't see people. And it's a major hazard, and it's a miracle that nobody's gotten hurt before. But I said at that Board of Education meeting, I'm going to bring this up to the borough, and I have it. And every time I walk to the high school from my house, I say, oh my God, this is a terrible hazard. It's really bad. We have to get, at the very least, a brighter light. Shangri-La would be a cutout.
Sure.
Thank you.
Do you want to tackle that one?
I'll let Sharon go into the details of this, but the summary is that her engineer is doing analysis there and has already provided some drawings and.
So actually the county engineer. So the county engineer actually already has a drawing done for bump outs. They're moving the crosswalk out of the driveway over to the other side of Sylvan. So it'll cross from the church across.
Christian Science.
And where will they walk across?
They will cross at Roberts at the corner instead of the Clancy's driveway. But that's a world of difference.
But also, it is the safest way that's been determined where the crosswalk needs to be. The issue is, there's going to be bump outs, and there's also going to be the flashing pedestrian lights there. That was, they went to their emergency road construction vendor. The price was too high. It came in, I believe, at $250,000 to do the work. They're providing us with a design. We're going to include it as an alternate in the 2025 road program to get pricing for that, to see if it comes in at something better. When the price comes in, the county will make the determination if they have the funds to move forward with it at that time. But there is a design in place. We're also in the process of coming up with a design for Lee Avenue.
Will we be able to have some input on that design? I know it's done by engineers, and I appreciate that something's being done. A huge concern now I have hearing that is, oh my God, people cross, I don't let my own kids cross Roberts Avenue at Kings Highway because too many cars coming from the other way are looking down towards town.
The majority of kids cross now. They cross Roberts and come down and then cross.
And it's dangerous. I'm just saying it's a dangerous intersection. So now you're bringing more people down to cross. Again, I'm not complaining. I'm just saying, oh, this is great that they're doing something, but it's concerning. And the price tag, if a brighter light bulb would solve the issue and just some bump outs by the Clancy's driveway, I'm talking about at a much less expense, that might be preferable. Again, I'm happy they're doing something about this, so don't take this as a.
Yeah, no, the problem with bump outs is you also have to then design stormwater around it. And there's an inlet right there on the other side of their driveway, which also causes problems with the crosswalk because it gets clogged with all kinds of debris at certain times. I remember the superintendent calling me one time asking to make sure before graduation, so you had a bunch of storms. So there's a lot that goes into it. They make sure that their traffic engineers specifically look at the situation to come up with the best solution, and that's where they land. But we can certainly go back and talk to them.
Would it be possible before all that happens to put a brighter light bulb in there by the borough?
Sure,
now?
great job, CNJ.
Yeah, that would be 60% of the solution here. That's just a rough estimate. But thank you.
Do you want to make any comment about the referendum or the one you referenced or anything like that?
No, that's fine.
Sound good, Annie? You're next. Yes.
I got it. Don't worry about it. I got it.
No, it fell forward. Don't worry, he's getting it. I didn't know if it was your phone or the mic. It's the mic. It's still.
It would have to be green.
Who's taking care of the clock? Oh, you're the one, okay.
You get more time, man.
Okay, I'm going as fast as I can. I just spoke earlier about this Christopher Knoll. And as I said, he's not on the planning board from today. He's not on the zoning board. I wanted to know if it was a new position. He's listed as Christopher Knoll, environmental resolutions, and if it's a new position, because he's going to be the new planning board engineer, and there's none listed here. The reason why I'm asking is because he might be involved in our new master plan or with Bancroft. So you can answer me later.
For your 5 minutes.
For the lady that was asking the question about financial interests in Bancroft, in the attachment here for Bancroft, under 8.1, it has the redeveloper, and it gives you his name, Eric Woodmont, and he owns 10%, and it goes into the whole paragraph here. And then if you read 9.1, so the redevelopers covenants. So read 8.1, the redeveloper, and 9.1, the redeveloper conditions, which will state, if you read it, that the redeveloper can sell, assign, encumber, transfer, convey, his interest in the property. So if you read those 2 paragraphs, you'll get your answer. Okay. Now, I also will say that Colleen, the reason why we're here tonight is because we had a commissioner, our mayor, Colleen, who's not here tonight because of the Super Bowl, who wasn't here before because she attended the Washington game, wasn't here before because she was sick. So whenever she shows up, she also can't come on February 24th, which would have been the next scheduled commissioners meetings. That's why we had 3 Mondays in a row of commissioners meetings. She couldn't make it on the 24th. So sometimes she'll show up for her job. But I had asked 3 times at commissioners meetings at 3 different months if we could have the 9 requests for proposals on the website for full transparency so all residents could see it. It was declined. Jack Tarditi was on Zoom. He called in and he asked for the same thing. That was declined. So there was really no transparency. So, I'm glad that both of you did not agree with this 120 units. And the reason why we have 120, because it was never about what was best for Haddonfield. It was what was best for her political agenda in a nonpartisan commission. And we have a problem with that. But I just would like to say that right now, there are those people who are bleeding green for the Eagles. But this is very upsetting. But I want to say, God bless those people who have fought for Haddonfield and Bloomfield in spite of the mayor and what she's done to this town. And I also want to say, God bless Kim Custer, who has devoted her life to historic preservation right here in Haddonfield, and who now lives in Delran and drives all the way over to be a part of Haddonfield again. She bleeds Haddonfield. She lives and breathes Haddonfield, and she should be given any amount of time that she wants. And that's all I think I have to say. That's all I said. I've been really upset about this decision. I don't blame you, Commissioner Troy, and I don't blame you, Commissioner Seidel. You've been put in this position, and you shouldn't have been put in this position. And I hope in the future, there's one thing that all 3 of you commissioners should know. You all have equal authority and power. The only difference is the person who got the highest number of votes is the mayor. But you can speak up and you can speak up, and you don't have to always vote yes, 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 or no, no, no. Speak up, transparency. We need someone to take control. We need someone to take the bull by its horns. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. So your questions, we can answer some of them.
So your question regarding Jeremy Knoll, he is Christopher Knoll.
Oh, okay.
Jeremy's the owner of ERI.
Oh, okay.
So ERI are the engineers for planning and zoning. And the other folks on there are attorneys. So each year, the planning and zoning board go out and get proposals for their positions for their professionals that assist them with their board running.
Well, shouldn't he be on the list of?
No,
No.
he's not an appointee. He's paid.
Oh, okay, I see.
Yeah.
Oh, all right, like a
So
solicitor.
all of those 2 resolutions, or that 1 resolution that you're looking at, all of those are the paid professionals for the 2 boards.
Our planning board members and our zoning board members are paid.
No,
No, the engineer who's hired.
The engineer and the attorneys.
It's just like us.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, so, but I'm going to just take a second. Colleen's not here to defend herself. So, I mean, I appreciate the passion. Thank you. I'm not defending, I'm saying she is not here to defend herself.
She's already guilty by the court of Haddonfield resident.
Well, this kind of goes back, and I'm gonna pick the scab because that's who I am. Everybody, there are opinions, there are truth, and there are facts. And the only thing that is true is the fact, because in one set of facts, everyone has their own truth. In the short time that I've worked with Colleen, she is a hardworking person. What her motivation is, you'd have to ask her, but her dedication, I don't question, because I do see her work her ass off.
It's a legal term.
So, I mean, and this isn't a defense on any decision that Frank makes. I'll own my own decisions. Colleen can own her own decisions and can defend herself when she's here. So, I mean, there's just a fairness to that I'm disagreeing with. But in the time I've known Colleen, which is short and we are working colleagues, she works her ass off. How she goes about that is her business. But I'm never going to question her commitment. The outcomes are not the way some people want them to go, or they don't feel like they're heard, but that's for you to decide at the ballot box, not in the court of public opinion. Just decide it at the ballot box.
David Greenberg, 119 Mount Vernon. I greatly appreciate the position you're in tonight. I want to move the discussion past the merits of voting yes or no tonight and the implications of it. Because I think the trajectory of how we got here is instructive. You're speaking about facts, and I will speak to them in a second. And the facts relate to the optics of this situation and the judgment employed along the way. And that includes the mayor. It eliminates you. And it eliminates you because you voted no originally, and again, you tabled it. But the facts are this. An RFP was developed. It was done without community involvement. It was scored without community involvement. The decision criteria were done without community involvement, and it was awarded without community involvement. That's where this all began. The language was changed after the fact in order to grant more things to the RFP than what they originally asked, and to bring it in conformity with potential conflicts. There are missing minutes for a long period of time that I personally have asked for, and others, including a retired judge who lives in this town. A lot of missing minutes, legal missing minutes. There's a commissioner that lied. There was legal deposition, and there was evasive, if no commentary about it, by the people that found out who are in this room. No one took any action. No one thought it was a problem. No one thought that they should do what's right by Haddonfield and come clean. They swept it under the rug and hid until they thought the judge might rule in the borough's favor, even though the facts were the facts. And now we have a missing mayor who somehow couldn't fly from New Orleans to land in Haddonfield by 10 o'clock at night. Those are the facts, and we also have last minute decision tonight. We have critical missing information on a document that I frankly don't understand. There's no excuse for it. I don't even know if the document's legal. That document doesn't have the date on it. It doesn't have the price to be paid. It doesn't have the tax implications or any financials, and it doesn't show anything about the design that's referenced repeatedly in the document. How is that possible? To have that kind of preparation done for this kind of situation. And so now the question you asked about was, are we making the right decision tonight? You may well be making the right decision, but the trajectory of how we got here is instructive, and the optics of it are terrible. And the judgment displayed along the way in each of these instances is unlike anything I've ever seen in 30 years or more of living in this town. I don't understand it. I just do not understand it. And frankly, I have to tell you, the question is, once this thing goes into action and all the money starts flowing, the question really is, who's going to benefit? Who's politically connected? Is there some connection between all the money that's going to flow into this town for such largesse? That's why the optics of this are bad. That's why people are upset. It's not the fact that you're stuck with a horrible decision. It's the fact that decisions made over a year and a half ago got us here. And there is one person who is more responsible than any other.
Thanks, David. Anyone else? Did the public? We'll move to David, or do you want to save your time for reporters?
It's gonna do the same time.
Oh, fair enough.
I prefer to speak.
Okay.
On a number of topics. There were questions tonight about the timeliness of minutes being approved. I seem to recall that nearly 4 years ago, there were minutes that were years old that hadn't been approved from work. The approval rate, I believe, has increased incredibly in the last couple of years. So the fact that some might be tardy now, by comparison with what they were, is really trivial. That doesn't mean to say we shouldn't have them properly, but it's much better than it used to be. David, I think you alluded before to work sessions when there were 2 work sessions a month and 2 regular meetings a month. It used to be that in my entire history in town, if the work sessions were held in 201, people sat around the table, they brought in their sandwiches and Coca-Colas or whatever they drank, and they chatted. The commissioners talked with each other, back and forth across the table. They expressed ideas, back and forth. Recently, the work sessions have been 1 a month, and you sit alongside each other, looking out at the public. I find it hard to understand how and when you talk with each other. So I hope that in time you'll think about that and think about the virtue of having 2 work sessions and 2 action sessions per month. I think one of the big mistakes, and it's already been mentioned tonight with respect to Bancroft, was not showing the public what those proposals were. And Colleen has said and put in print that she wanted to do that and that the other 2 commissioners didn't. I'm accepting that that's what she said. Whether it was or not, I don't know, but I have to accept that that's what she said. That's absolutely what should have happened, and it would have saved so much of the angst that we've seen since then. If Matt Skoufos hadn't done what he did on NJ Pen, we would know nothing about any of those proposals. It boggled my mind at the time and still does. Huge mistake. Sharon, maybe you can answer this question for me. About a year ago, there was an agenda item to, I think, appoint some people to a committee for the United States 250th anniversary. Did that ever happen?
No, it's not.
Okay. Any prospect of that?
I believe it's going to happen soon, but I'm not.
It's coming up pretty fast.
I am well aware of that.
Okay. If you can answer this question for me, I'd appreciate it. Colin's husband has a video business, and I believe he has contacts, if not with the Eagles, with NFL-related businesses. Is that correct? And so that he was in New Orleans on business. And Colleen, who has always assisted him and may in fact be a partner in his business, was in New Orleans on business. Are you able to confirm that? Okay. I suspect that that is the case. She didn't just go to the Super Bowl like anybody else. She was there supporting her husband, or and perhaps in an equal capacity as a partner in his business. I don't know that for a fact, but I think that is the case. It's unfortunate that she didn't say that at the mayor's breakfast on Saturday as part of what she said, that she was in New Orleans working as part of her regular business. And then the final thing that I'd like to say is to compliment Matt Jessup on his presentations, which are hugely informative, incredibly well presented, benefiting not just the commissioners, but the general public as well. Matt, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thanks, David. All right, we will move to Zoom. Open for agenda for any topic you would like to discuss with the commissioners. Just raise your hand. I'm not going to give as much time as I did before. One, Lisa Quancy. Please unmute. You have the floor.
Do you hear me? Did I do it right?
Yes.
Success. Thank you. I just have been listening passionately and carefully, and I want to thank everyone who has spoken from the residents. I'd like to thank you, Frank, and you, Dave, for this night that we all wish, well, many of us wish went differently, but going forward, I'm keep trying to look at the silver lining here and how we can make things better. And the one thing I can see going down the road that might be problematic, and I think a good way to relieve that is to, oh, well, first of all, it's the revenue that will be coming in from this building project with the pilot. I don't know how the borough plans to use those dividends, but I really implore you to perhaps maybe put out and ask for some volunteer residents to form some kind of advisory board, people with varying experiences and banking and history and historic preservation and kids and activities to come together and maybe give the people the voice on how those revenues are spent. And I don't need an answer. I just wanted to say that.
Sure. Well, the immediate revenue has to go to debt service. So the purchase price would go right to satisfying our short-term debt that we have not converted to long-term debt yet.
Right.
No different than if you have credit card debt, you don't go, taking vacations, a responsible person.
I'm just looking long-term at 30 years payments. I would really love for there be some kind of consensus on where the revenue is spent from the people who, are have their heart and soul connected to this place.
Absolutely. And your comment is well heard. I was only pointing out the purchase price has to go right to debt service.
Gotcha. That's all. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Lisa. Thanks, Lisa.
Christina.
Hi.
Hi, Christina, last name, street, please.
Yep, Christina Bozarth, Meadow Drive. Just to correct somebody in the room, it's not Meadow Lane, it's Meadow Drive. I needed to make a comment on all of the comments I keep on hearing about the mayor not being in the meeting tonight. I'm a working mother, so a young child. I am actually home tonight, not there because my child has one of whatever these horrible colds are. I frequently have to travel for my job. I have in-laws, I have parents that are elderly, live here, don't live here. People are sick. For anyone to make any assumptions that she is not there by choice without knowing any idea of where she is, I find to be so offensive as a parent, as a woman, and as someone who's also a volunteer here in the community. I do a lot of volunteer work in the community, and we can't be everywhere all the time. And I also have to say, Dave, I know you tried to speak up a little bit, but I think Dave and Frank, as the commissioners, you could have done a little bit more to mention and remind the people in the room saying things that Colleen was on record at the last work session that she had pre-planned travel and she may not make it back in time for this meeting. Plain and simple. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Just raise your hand. All right, seeing none, I am making a motion to close public comment at this time. Second.
Voting on that motion. Commissioner Troy,
In favor.
Commissioner Seidel.
In favor. We had one closed session to wrap up the 11th hour and 59th minute, right? It's almost like the doomsday clock, right? You know, how many minutes to midnight are we? So do we need another closed session, Sharon?
No, we do not.
Oh, that's right, press. Thank you very much, John. It kind of not used to this. So yes, open to the press. We will start with the retrospect because the retrospect is in attendance. So Joan?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you can. I mean, if you, yeah, sure. No, that's fine. David, you're also in attendance. You've had your turn. Matt, you are online. And do we have anybody from the Sun? I know they just changed. People covering our meeting, so I don't know if you are, just make yourself known.
Hi there, am I clear to ask?
Yes, you are, Matt. I'm moving the mic so the in-room can hear.
Yeah, we heard a whole lot of stuff from folks who are obviously emotional about where this decision is. Can I just ask you and Frank to, because I think I kind of lost track in all of the back and forth. Can I just hear from you guys each about your, reasons to go ahead and approve this? If I can ask you to sum it up in a couple of remarks so that we can put it together. And then Deanna, I'll definitely be coming in tomorrow to try to get a copy of the document, whatever the final version of it was that came through tonight.
Okay.
Thank you.
So this is Frank. I'll go first. I would say that in summary, when I spoke at the November's meeting and said that, I opted not to vote for it because I wanted the input from Dave, who was recently elected. And I said to affordable housing, the attorneys in person here that night, pardon me, allowed me, a few months to collect input as fast as possible that week. We took that input, we debated that input in closed session, and I can speak for my fellow commissioners, or I believe everyone went out and kind of sought the same feedback from their constituents, their friends, their network of people. And, what we vote on tonight represents a little bit of everything. We increased open space to where it's a majority of the space, at 54% versus 40% where it was before. It hit the mark for lower density than what it originally was, from 120 down to 98. It got it in line with roughly the number of cars and parking spots that used to be there when Bancroft was there. And the driving force for me, really where it's always been, is more or less like tax neutrality, or as close as possible to tax neutrality, make it cost neutral to the residents, because I've heard from enough residents that they don't want to pay a lot in taxes. And yes, that's anecdotal, but depending on which survey you take a look at, 42% of respondents in New Jersey say they're paying too much in taxes. 48%, in other surveys say about the same thing, or say that, the costs are too high in New Jersey. I think the referendum vote on the school board, of the 750 people that voted no, it's probably a proxy for that. Roughly 30%, 25% of the people saying that they're paying enough in taxes. So, this hit that mark for me, that, it got it to almost, tax neutral, and it gave residents more of what they wanted, or at least what I heard they wanted in the focus groups that I had. As I said, I'd rather have it for, the properties for, for sale versus for rent. But I was not willing to hold out on that one. So, that was one I was willing to concede and get some of the other, requests for the residents in play.
Sure. For me, my frustration goes back a long way, as a member of the public. Very disappointed with the process for the kind of the secrecy around that. I've lived this pain in the past, in the school district, when, much like now, just public perception of trust, transparency, all of that just wasn't around. This is the fight I got into. Talking about this specific plan, though, I didn't want 10, but I wasn't willing to burn it down because I didn't want 10. The reality is it just isn't financially possible to do that, nor was open space really ever an option. Once, and it isn't just the voting of it, it is the amount of money it cost us to even acquire the space. Doing nothing doesn't make us have the funds to make it look any better than the crap hole it is right now. At least now we don't have the buildings that are also havens for the homeless, and and the borough just incurring more cost and more cost to do the bare minimum, and we deserve way more than that. So, knowing that 10 wasn't going to get it done, knowing that at some point along the way there was a point of no return of any alternative idea that had any chance of identifying the financing. It's one thing to come up with a spreadsheet, and Chris, to his credit, really put out numbers. I'm not saying anything. He's not here now, but nothing I didn't say to his face. Like me, they were naive, because there are so many other costs that the grind of government imposes on a project, that it's just an untenable project. And once you're not at 10, and there has to be somebody that can make some money, or no one's going to make the work, no one's going to do the job in the first place, then you have to find the number. And couldn't find the number at 20, couldn't find the number at 40. Talked to developers, came up with a plan. Sharon can attest, looking at every source of revenue that the borough would have to forego to afford it. No more streets, no more tree takedowns, no more plantings, curtailing some of our trash pickup to stockpile enough money to still do the bare minimum. Got to be what on earth are we going to do? No, we can't do it this way either. All the while the clock is ticking. Woodmont, and for me, I really do separate the two lawsuits. One to me has nothing to do with the other. If the vote was legal, illegal, that will get sorted out, but that's not what's in front of this commissioner, that commissioner. Frank, sorry, you're Matt, you're on Zoom, so I pointed at Frank, and really not in front of Colleen. That will sort itself out, however it does. That doesn't change the fact that tonight we had to sit here and vote for a financially viable project at a number that's not even coincidentally close. It's always going to be 80, 90. You know, when it was 80 townhouses and 10 affordable units, or 86 apartments and 12 affordable units. That number was set a long time ago. And more than anything, it's so hard to negotiate against yourself. This town spoke. You could say about any reason why you want and you personally feel in your heart, why did the town not vote for the referendum in 2013? Why did the residents have a lawsuit against the townhouses when that was a number? Why? I don't know. Frankly, I don't care. It happened. And frustrating part about it is we are here tonight back where the original proposal was, within a couple units, with a better revenue structure and less land used and opportunity to change some of that land into something we can use and enjoy. And that's why I voted yes, because it's the best we could do, not just with the time we had, because we've had 20 years. This is the best we could do once that ball got rolling the day Bancroft sold to O'Neill. Here we are. And like I said earlier, it sucks, but here we are.
Can I ask Sal a quick question? And thank you both, by the way, for your responses. So could you expound a little bit just on, we've heard a number of people come up and just, make, concrete allegations that Kevin Roche lied under oath, or he said this and that, he wasn't truthful about where he was living. Can you just expound a little bit on some of the reasons you were giving to push back, aside from the fact that we're hearing from litigants in a lawsuit that are making claims that haven't been proven in a court or adjudicated on? I'm just asking if you can just explain a little bit if there's more behind, the other perspective on that.
Not really any more than I previously said. No.
Okay. I appreciate it.
Anything else, Matt?
No, thanks very much, guys. You want to stay any longer? See if we can hit that 12 o'clock hour?
Welcome. You're the person from this. I'm sorry, what was that, Matt?
I made a bad joke. I'm turning myself off.
Oh, no, thank you. Yeah, no, it sounds like a nightmare. Remember, we were all up late last night with the Eagles.
She doesn't want to.
I know, but I'm welcoming Samantha as our new coverage, because her name's not Emily. So Samantha from the Sun, welcome. All right, seeing no other comments. What, is that a hand or is that your mouse?
That's mouse.
All right. Seeing no other, thank you. So seeing no other comments, I move to close the reporter comment period. Actually, I don't even think that's a motion. So we're closing that. We don't have a closed session? No. All right, so I make a motion to adjourn. Second.
Voting on that motion, Commissioner Troy,
In favor.
Commissioner Seidel.
In favor.
Right.